Okay, we're back again with part two of the sun. We first we worked out with Stonehenge and some ancient civilizations that used the sun to monitor the azimuth and the other word I keep forgetting. Um, oh shit, the other word. Um, I have to Google it, do I? It was equinox. That's the word. I didn't have to Google. So we've worked out that that's what Stonehenge and similar structures around were used for those type of
Yeah,
things.
Terry, you've got a challenge, mate.
Got a challenge?
Yeah.
The day this channel starts on time, I'll become a flat earther. Weren't you donating $200 last time, Aaron? Did I start on time?
Oh, g'day, John.
Hi, John. Hello,
Hey,
Marty
John's out
Moose.
there. Hey, John. Aaron, you know what? If you're complaining about what time I start, you don't have to watch. Okay, so I've found this site that's share it. Get it all in. All in. It's from our favourite people, obviously.
Sorry, Fred, we were commenting on your comments when we went online. Hello to Fred Nuts. When I see Fred in the chat, I always think someone's going to get a lesson if they talk some
Yeah, and
crap.
also unstructured understanding is in the chat. He goes Parker Solar Probe. If you stare at the sun, you may see it. And in brackets, don't do that.
Starting at the top, we've got the digital demonic. Who's digital demonic? Never heard of him.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to put aliens.
Shout out to Mippet69, Kit, No Name, going down the list.
no
Renee,
name. No name out
Renee
there.
Name. Yep. He says he's going to listen on the drive home.
Oh, okay, no, no.
Assuming Terry starts before I get home.
The thing is, he'll be home shortly.
And Sean Hawkins.
Yep, all the usual.
Yep.
John said, let's tell my dick is so big jokes.
Yeah,
What?
my dick is so big, uni choked. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oops.
Very loud.
Who would like to be a reader?
He's almost home. I will read something.
So from last episode, we mentioned about Stonehenge. We didn't really mention about the Mayan pyramids because we didn't get a good site for that. I think there's enough information there to start. I don't know if that's the last word on the corner.
We've got the sheepy in the chat. Hello, Amy. I'm
Hello.
watching you.
Is that too big or too small?
I can see it. Looks good on the screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to move it over a bit just so it looks better. No, I can't move it over any further.
Oh. Gotta go back a bit. Yeah.
Okay, there's not that much
Chris,
to read. Thought
Chris
there
Katsolis,
I thought there
hello
was a
to
lot
you.
more than that. But I think this will be a good summary to lead us on to the next step.
Chris Bate, hello to you. Factard, hello to you
Hi,
too.
Factard. Okay. Now, see how far I can read before my eyes get watery. So what do Stonehenge, Mayan pyramids, and a spacecraft a million miles away have in common? They're linked by a human need to explore and understand the sun, moon, planets, and stars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff.
This year, Sun Earth Day on March 20th focuses on ancient observatories, timeless knowledge, and falls on the vernal equinox when day and night are the same length. Appropriately, NASA and the Exploratorium in San Francisco are focusing on ancient peoples and their fascination with the sun, which played a major role in most Native American religious practices and social events. NASA continues to pay close attention to the sun today through ground and satellite-based observatories, still seeking to understand this star as a dominant influence on our lives. The sun seems to have a major role not only in religious practices of indigenous people, but also art, culture, and more. That image is Weep National Monument. This spectacular sunset was taken during 2004 summer solstice at Weep National Monument, wherever that is. Weep National Monument protects 5 prehistoric Puebloan era villages spread over a 20-mile expanse of mesatops and canyons along the Utah-Colorado border. The Sun Room is a rectangular room attached to the southern side of this tower. Could have been used to mark the equinoxes and solstices. Beams of light shine through portholes, illuminating lintels on doorways in the room. On a flat Earth, you wouldn't get the sun to shine through an opening on a building at that lower elevation. Anyway, sorry.
Well, see, that's the thing. We don't have a model to test it on.
Oh.
Well, on a flat Earth, it would happen every day. No, there would be no need for Stonehenge and for calendars.
Wow.
Why not?
Because the sun would rise and set in the same area all the time.
No, what? No, because it does still go between the tropics on the flat Earth.
What?
Oh, quasar.
Only on
no.
some people's believing type trying to justify how the sun moves around systems.
Yeah, on the 67,000 different models that they have.
They haven't even got. They can't narrow down to one model.
Oh, look, I'd be happy with 3, Terry. Honestly, if they could make everything work on 3, then I'd turn around and say, well, we've still got it working on 1. Why can't you get it on 1?
For
But then
example,
we have. Sorry, Terry. Then we have multiple micro models of what happens down here on the planet. And then they're stuffed.
Unless the flat Earth was moving in some sort of manner, why would the sun change from when it rose to where it sat set.
Doesn't rise and set, only goes to a vanishing point.
Well, that's what I mean. But it shouldn't move. Well,
Quasar, you're trying to bring logic into the flat Earth game, mate. This is bad
I
idea.
know. I keep failing to even recognise it. It's like
You'll give yourself a migraine. I can tell. I can
He's-
see it coming.
just befabbling myself.
For example, the Mayans built the pyramid of Calcan in El Casillo, Mexico between 1000 and 1200 AD, with the sun's movement in mind, located in the ruins of Chichen Itza. This 75-foot tall, squared-base pyramid is unique among all known pyramids worldwide for its central well and a dramatic shadow and light display during the spring and fall equinoxes. The axes that run through the northwest and southwest corners of the pyramid are orientated toward the rising point of the sun at the summer solstice, setting point at the winter solstice. Kulkulkan is the Mayan name for the feathered serpent god, also known as Quetzalcoatl to the Aztecs. Now we'll have to find.
Quetzalcoatlus.
Yeah, we're going to have to find some more images of the how the sun can be orientated towards its rising point during spring, fall equinoxes. There might be a generic type image we can, or drawing, or whatever you call it, representation of how they would have done this, because if they've done this and it's the same principle as anyone else that's done it, like for the shit, the other cement blocks over in England, ones in the circle.
Stonehenge.
Yeah, that's them. We can see a comparison to see how could different civilizations in different continents, hundreds and thousands of miles away from each other, come up with the same principle, which to me is interesting.
That too. Plus, you also have the Earth's wobble. Approximately every 11,000 years, it shifts a couple of degrees.
And
Well, that would throw out their seasonal calendars, such as Stonehenge.
oh, okay, and yeah, okay. So that even if someone else made up their I don't know what you call it. When they built theirs, say a thousand years later, theirs might have been different in the alignment.
Exactly.
If we could.
Well, yeah, it's roughly every 11,000, 12,000 years, you get a shift of between 23 and 24.5 degrees.
Paula, do you remember
wouldn't.
Paula, do you remember when I said that Stonehenge was used?
From the top of my head, I think it was 2,000 years before Christ.
Yeah, well, the Mexicans did it 1200 AD. So, for what Quasar is saying, there may not be much difference to their alignments if they've done something similar.
Well,
okay, be interesting to
Yeah.
find that out.
Because Quasar said so.
Well, we're going to verify this. We have to fact check.
Well, we don't always have Polaris as our North Star. That's already a fact. So
Yeah. Okay.
when people build these solar calendars on Earth, it all depends where they actually are as to the effect of the polar shift of the Earth's axis. Like it'll wobble. Like the northern pole or southern pole will change.
Hang on. So the only two pole stars since 5,000 plus years ago has been Thuban and Polaris in the north.
5,000 years.
Yeah. Well, one of the
is
pyramids
roughly,
was pointed directly at Thuban.
yeah, this is roughly about 12,000.
Yeah, so 12,000 years. 12,000.
It's only a degree, but that degree can
Yeah, that's what I was
measure.
going to ask my next question. How far would a degree look on
But
Earth if something moved 1 degree?
What was 12,000 years ago?
The polar shift of our spin, the spin of our axis. It shifts about 1.5 degrees roughly every 12,000 years.
Yeah, but between Thuban and Polaris, that's not 12,000 years.
That's what I meant. You said 5,000. I said, yeah, but the shift's roughly every 12,000. So 5,000 years ago was that report. So where was the report 5,000 years before that or 5,000 years after that?
Mm. Yes. We need to know these things.
I don't know them, but if someone does.
Yes.
Hang on, I'm going to tell you something, but I don't know something.
Well, we have to find out this if we can, if it's possible. Because the way I'm thinking is if we've still got standing stones that actually still can be used as a recording of where the sun solstice and things like that go through it, well, there may be some information that we can use.
Well, who was it? Before Jesus Christ, who was it? I forget his name now. Hipparchus was the guy that before Christ measured the stars actually moving roughly every 100 years. Well, he only got that from records that were kept before.
Okay.
Hipparchus.
I don't know. I'd have to Google
Yeah,
it.
he was about 200 years before Christ.
You have to Google it, Quasar.
So a little
Well,
bit
I didn't have to
after
Google it. I knew it. So.
a bit after Aristotle and Aristarchus.
Yeah, well, that's when they were taking measurements of the stars, like Earth's movement through. Well, I don't know what they thought back in those days, whether the Earth
Were they
was
measurements or
unmoving.
just plotting them?
Well, you have to go back in time there and ask them that.
Yeah, we'll get the Wayback Machine. Why don't we fire it up?
But he actually found that the stars were moving roughly about a degree every 100 years. Now, you'd have to ask yourself what would cause that.
Yeah,
Are the stars
yeah.
actually moving, or are you actually moving?
Yeah, that's because our solar system goes around the galaxy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so of course they move because we move, but it's just so gradual.
Yeah, but in those days, there was great debate about whether Earth was unmoving, whether it was the center of everything, blah blah blah. Okay.
But Aristarchus was the first one to say that Earth revolved around the sun.
No, he was the first one to say that the Earth wasn't the center; the sun was.
No. Aristarchus of Samos said the Earth span on an axis and went around the sun.
Okay, yeah, but he placed the sun at the center. Yeah.
Yes, he did, which Copernicus then built on. The other thing too is it takes 230,000 years for our solar system to go around the galactic axis.
Well, we'll get to that type of things in
250 million years.
Right. That'll come out in when we find out more about more modern observations of what's.
Did you just say the galactic axis?
What? I don't know what that means.
Xavros, did you say the galactic axis?
Well, that is the middle of the galaxy.
Okay, it takes about 250 million years, not 250,000.
Sorry, I dropped 3 zeros.
Okay, no problem. I nearly fell off my chair then for a sec.
Yeah, well, you enjoy your 12 cosmic seconds of life, mate.
I was about to say, geez, we really are moving fast, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if according to flat earthers, we would do it in about 200,000 years.
Anyway, we're digressing a bit from the.
Yeah, we're onto the sun.
Yeah. Well, it's this early observations that we're reading out. So in Chaca Canyon, located in New Mexico. So this is all to do with the South Americans and Aztecian civilizations over in that way. But if we haven't read any more about, if we hear about over in the Middle East or Mediterranean side, we've only got the Stonehenge so far. So we'll keep reading what they found out over on this side of the world. Several structures indicate the ancient culture's understanding of the sun's movements. Benito's special corner windows let sunlight through, but only as time marches onward to the winter and summer solstices. At Casa Rinacada, a window in the south wall lets a beam of light shine into a niche on the back wall at the time of the summer solstice. So they're able to pinpoint these spots and mark it for how many years they were able to do it for their civilization at the time. Fajido Butte projects a dazzling sun dagger where during equinoxes and solstices, one or sometimes two thin slivers of light frame a spiral petroglyph. Okay. Scroll up.
How'd it go? Yes, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
Can I borrow someone else's eyes for a couple of paragraphs?
Actually, Quasar, wasn't Hipparchus the same bloke who brought up the Hippocratic method?
Which part are we up to, Terry? I'm
Across the globe.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Across the globe,
Stavros.
to ancient Egyptians, the sun god Ra was the most universally worshipped king of the gods and all-father of creation. He commanded a chariot that rode across the sky during the day. The magnificent temple of Karnak celebrates Ra through its enormous pillars, designed in harmony with the sun and stars over a span of nearly 2,000 years.
So what's
Image
that? What's that image? Is that a image or is that an actual permanent
Image
representation?
on left, Sun Earth Day site.
It's ecological side.
Part of the archaeologist on this companion Sun Earth Day site that uses satellite images, photographs, and historical records to provide a timeline for two ancient observatories. Credit NASA. We may never know for certain just how these solar-inspired structures were used. There also remains some controversy about their exact details and the actual intent of their creators. But we can at least admire their creators for what must have been a sophisticated understanding of the sun's movements. We can also admire them for their cleverness in applying this knowledge to enhance their own survival in a largely unforgiving environment.
Yeah,
The
hold
purposes.
on. I'll scroll up.
Okay.
So there was more to it. Like going by that image, I don't know if I can make it much bigger.
It's pretty amazing.
I don't know. I'll try. Is that a bit
Wow.
better?
Yeah, it's got bigger.
So
Wow.
is that just a site or a? It looks like it's meant to be outside. I thought that we were talking about like temples and holes in walls and stuff.
Pretty incredible.
Wow.
It definitely looks like a tree in the middle of it there.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? That's the understanding of what they. Oh shit! I clicked the wrong thing.
Oh, jeez, it's all falling apart now.
Yeah, I
The
lost
gluons have let go.
I clicked the wrong thing.
That's all right, mate. It's all good.
Oh shit!
We may never know.
Oh no!
That's the last thing on the screen.
The answer to the secret of the universe and life and everything, and it's gone.
Oh no, no, we're gonna have to start all over again. Quick, destroy the flaps.
should be in me history.
We cleared the history out the other night, Terry. Remember?
No, no, not recent history.
Okay, we got the last. We got the last.
Did I
We
bookmark?
erased.
Yeah, but did
We
I
got the
book?
last sentence on the live stream.
Yeah,
We
wait a-
erased your memory, Terry.
The purpose of the Sun Earth Day is to get people to understand that the Sun is a magnetic star that impacts the Earth and other planets in our
It's-
solar system,
Not
I
a
knew I should have
magnetic
bookmarked it.
star.
I knew I should have bookmarked it.
and that humans of all cultures and times have and will use technology to understand the Sun and the universe beyond. And then you killed it.
Phew, I got it. I got it back.
Okay,
I don't know how I did it, but I got. I'm going to bookmark it before I press the wrong button again.
fair enough.
Okay. All right,
Right.
where are we?
Scroll down a bit. Past the temple.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
picture.
So I just read that last sentence there. So
We're at 2,000 years. You read the
beneath,
image,
yeah. So
and you're
beneath.
up to we may never know.
No, I've done both of those. I've got to. I just did that last one there. The purpose of the Sun.
Oh, I didn't even hear you read that.
Yeah. I was reading it off the live stream.
Huh?
I was
Oh,
leaving.
that's
It was,
cheating.
it was still on the live stream. I went back and paused it.
So
but it
you've
was
read the
still
purpose of the Sun Day, Earth.
Yep.
The Earth Day is to get people to understand the Sun is. Okay. So now we're getting into different areas.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the cleverness implying their knowledge to enhance their own survival in a largely unforgiving environment. Okay. Right, now we're getting into a different area, I suppose.
Stereo.
So do we go on to this, or do we try to find a little bit more info? Because I find this section interesting to do with how they used for summer and winter solstices and equinoxes, the sites
Mm.
that they had. So might have to
Well,
Google some more information.
you could Google the Temple of Karnak. You know, that would be one section, or you could um, just Google the Sun
Is that
Temple.
my secretary working today?
I'm being lazy, but if you want me to. Jeez, what do you want?
All right.
Hang on. Let me open a new tab. I'll have to swap off my phone if you want me to work there, Terry.
Oh,
I'll be back
okay.
shortly.
You weren't
I'll be back
weren't
shortly, Terry.
didn't I put you in the books
Oh
for
no,
working this afternoon?
I've got a problem with my tax and income and stuff, mate. So if you want me to work today, it has to be off the books.
Right.
Um,
I just gotta step out.
Well,
Minute,
well, actually,
wait.
Sheepy should search it because he said he said a certain word to do with what to search for.
Okay, just a
Was
second.
that to do with this site, the one
Or
that's
just
in the
summon
picture, or?
Yeah, one that has the tree on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That place.
Temple of Karnak.
Is that the one in Egypt?
Yeah.
Oh, here, the
Beautiful.
magnificent temple of Karnak.
Yeah.
So see if we can. There's that, and this other place that's in New Mexico has several structures as well.
Yeah.
But
It's
what I'd like to
interesting.
find, what I'd like to find is maybe a more modern representation graphically of what they did in an image, and then while we're still looking
right.
at these things, as these are the actual representation of what they used. But I suppose it's the mathematical and visual representation of what they were doing, which would be interesting, because then we can actually see what they were doing.
Interesting though that um, we're not following the title of the stream.
Oh, we are. It's all about the sun.
No,
Yep.
but it says, what is the sun and what does it do?
Well, what is the sun? And what does it do? Well, it does this. It's able to be used to determine equinox and things
So
like that.
that's what humans were able to do using the sun.
It's what the sun did to what the humans made.
I'll be back shortly. Just gotta take a phone call.
Okay. That's
Alright.
not me.
So you're after some type of graphical representation of what actually happened when the sun did what it did.
To make, yeah, so they could read something to what would be the equinox or the solstice. I'm picturing what it'd look like, but it's just for the people out there as well.
Could put on the 5-year SDO from NASA to show what our sun does. I think you played it before.
Yeah, but is that more modern knowledge, technology-wise, of what the sun does? Compared to what we're looking at here, this is something that what was able to be done with the sun, thousands of years ago. See, we haven't even got into sundials yet. Sundials, 2 sticks in the ground, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's all that sort of stuff yet we've got to get through.
Well, we've used the sun for many things.
Yeah,
Seasons.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Time.
Yep. I'm really not sure how a sundial works yet, but we'll get into that next time. Or if we get time today. Well, I could leave that for tomorrow night. Just tonight I wanted to concentrate on, if we could, on the equinox and if we could work out how much, you were saying before, Quasar, how much the Earth or the planetary systems moved in relating to our perspective on Earth, to measure like for what they're doing there, if the sun was out a little bit over all those tens of thousands of years, I wonder how much it would show.
Well, those civilizations that were around for thousands of years would have roughly experienced a dilation between the sun actually entering those 2 doors or those 2 pillars.
Mm.
It might have appeared a few days early or a few days later or months early.
Wow, that would have
or
really
later.
confused. That would have really but that wouldn't have took. That would have took hundreds of years to notice.
Yeah, but that also changes the seasons on Earth because of where the sun actually hits the Earth at a certain time.
Wow, that'd be really confusing.
It's not that much when you think about it, right? But it can throw other systems out.
See, we don't even know how far back for what they were using these for, because the birth of agriculture and season planting is something that is something to put into this too, because they needed to know those type of things, when to plant, to do planting. Or were they using it for other reasons mainly? You don't know. It's what you can find out what it does to know the equinox and the, I keep forgetting the 2 words, solstice, sorry. The winter solstice and summer solstice and equinox. Knowing what they are and then trying to speculate what they could be used for.
Well, they wouldn't have happened. These they wouldn't have happened on a day or weekly basis, but would have happened. They would have happened over a generation of change.
Hmm.
Like the season would start early for planting, as opposed to the season would start later in planting.
But are you thinking that this was around at the time when agriculture had already started?
Well, it's been around
Yeah,
since it started wobbling.
Yeah, but to use the sun's equinox and solstice measurements.
Well, they had to find out when to plant, when not to plant.
Hmm.
Like spring.
But could there
Was the
been any
year.
other? But could there have been any other uses for this observation or not? That's what I'm wondering.
Terry, on the
Nah.
internal chat, I've actually dropped a map of it, and it's set up as per how the north, south, east, and west would have been at the period of time when it was built.
Wow.
So it shows. I don't know if you want.
You just found that by typing in that place.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Hopefully I can get a good picture of it out there.
well, it's on Flickr, so you should be able to zoom in a fair way on it. Because the people that did the thing that it was in actually did the right thing and put links into Flickr and then put all of the large pictures on Flickr, which makes it so much easier.
Yeah, that does.
So
That's no good. We're going to have to use the natural zoom. Try to use the. Yeah, see the natural zoom. The pixelation's better. Okay, we've got to figure out. That's
yeah,
west. Oh, here we are. North, south, east, west.
Yep. So if you go down to the western side, you can see that there's a road. There's a road that runs straight from the west towards the centre of the
avenue of something.
Rummers, is it?
Some word like that. Yeah.
But there's a series of doors and entrances that run along that road that goes straight into the body of the holy the highest holiest temple in the actual construction of the
Number 8.
Yeah, number 8.
Number 8's easier to say, Quasar.
Number 8. But the light would go straight down all those hallways, all of those doors, and go straight into number 8 to show you that when the sun sets there, that's where the equinox is. Now, from what you were reading before, apparently there's another doorway or something that shows you the sunrise from the east. Now, there is that gate there that you're showing at the moment. The thing I find interesting, though, if you go to the southerly aspect of that building as well.
Yeah, hang on a second.
Yep.
Yeah, keep going. I'll catch up.
They've actually lined up the doors to show when noon would be, on the premise that this is in the Egyptian area. So it's still somewhat the northern hemisphere. The sun would be somewhat south. So they've set it up so that the sun can run straight into the
Now, what are you saying again? The east, right?
So,
That's the east.
It's the south.
But in the south as well, Terry, they've lined up the.
Oh, that.
No, too far south, Terry. Right.
Yeah, so these
there.
rooms are
So
misaligned.
where it says 5, 4, 3, 2. So right there. Yep, right there, and it goes up to. I think it says.
5, 4, 3.
Yeah, right in between where your mouse is at the moment.
The ones in Roman numerals.
Yes. So
7.
So the the doorways there line up too, so that would do the same thing for when the sun would be in winter at 12 o'clock noon. Their winter, that is.
South.
Yeah, but those rooms don't align.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Why don't those rooms align?
Yeah, they're not lined up. Those ones.
No, not those ones, but that the one above, the one at the top of that to there. See that little
Yeah, they run
right?
that way, which is
Yeah, but how would the light
east-west.
enter from the south?
Yeah, I don't see the south ones being for the same reason. I reckon they might have been for something else. Those
Possibly,
ones.
I don't know. But that last door on the not the what's the word I'm looking
I
for?
reckon the names of all these sections may be a clue too. Could be a clue. If they've got names for them.
Well, it lines up with the south, but it doesn't line up the north.
See, that one's got something shining, like it could shine in that way maybe. There's all these different ones too, like there's number 14.
How would they have the sun shining in the south there?
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm
so
trying to
from
figure out.
stop there. Stop. No. Up, 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 up. There. On the premise, if there was no roof on that section where Terry's mouse is there,
Yeah.
the sun would go straight through that doorway between the two lots of rocks, straight keep going up to that
If
that
there was
main
no
building there.
roof,
Well, if there wasn't a
Yeah, I know, this is weird how to... Unless we had
This
some... Yeah.
so this is all looking down from on top. So that if there was a
See, don't forget when they've excavated this, the structure of what they've found, wouldn't be much left to see. It'd
Yeah.
be foundations and...
but they
Yeah,
know
but-
that sections of it did have roofs and other sections didn't have roofs, though, Terry. So
okay.
Okay.
Right.
See, we don't know what stars and moon, planets, what observations they could have been having, not just the sun.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
I can find more if you really want, but that one just, as far as I was concerned, that just showed that the main entrance, as it would be into the temple, perfectly lines up to the west.
But we're assuming that they used all the temples for the same reason. We don't know.
Oh well, that's another
Like,
thing.
like you're saying, for this one it runs east-west. The ones they said, the sun comes through for the equinox and the solstice. But that's the biggest. This would be one of the biggest representations of an example.
If the sun rises from east to west, and they've got a southern,
Yeah, I don't think that section's for the sun.
the sun would have to go above that southern part. So maybe those two doorways, if they had no roof, they would form a perfect shadow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would work. And I think that's the important thing we've got to realise here, Terry, is that I'll just grab this other one here.
Unless you could replicate, if we knew the exact dimensions or the structure, and it could be replicated, that would give us an idea of how it was used.
Well, they've actually got some really. They've got a lot of really detailed drawings, original drawings on here.
Okay.
They're almost should I call them They look a lot like scaled plans almost, but they're
What architectural
like
drawings?
architectural drawings, yeah. But they're not. They're more
Hmm.
like there's no measurements or anything like that on it.
Oh,
Um,
they didn't have a tape measure back then, did they?
no, well, no.
They had feet.
They had feet and
Yeah. What?
cubics and
Whose foot?
Well, they had the emperor's elbow to tip of the finger, which
Yeah.
was their measurement at the time of the
I
emperor.
thought it was elbow to wrist.
Yeah, it could have been. I might be wrong, but it was dependent on the emperor at the time, or
Yeah.
the
Yeah, so when they had a 12-year-old, the measurement was half
exactly
the
right.
size.
Yeah. Yes, Dad. Well, so
so well, here's a better one, Terry. I'll give you.
So the bigger the monument, the bigger the person. So if it was a midget, it'd only be a little building.
well, things used to change depending upon X.
So here's another link, Terry, which you might find a little bit more convenient to look at. However, this one is not set up north. It's rotated 90 degrees. So north is actually to the left-hand side of this picture. And
Where's it say north?
so towards the bottom right-hand side, but this is north as in it is now.
Yeah, north, south, east, west, as in the picture.
Oh, here we go.
The bottom right-hand side
Yeah,
there
I
in the
found
middle.
it. Yeah, I found it.
I am never getting Terry to look at a map.
So where's the picture that I put up before?
Dad, Ross, do you want to do it?
Well, I can't. I don't have your mouse.
So the picture that I showed.
You don't want his mouse. Sorry, Terry. Sorry.
The picture that I put up before was the temple as per the inclination of north would have been at the time when it was built. However, if you look at have a look at it
This has
now,
changed.
it's changed. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So it kind of twists
So-
your head.
So that's what
Oh.
Demonic was sorry, that's what Quasar was saying earlier, that over the period of time it actually does change a little bit.
Yeah, we can see it's nearly at right angles to its
Right
side.
angles to the walls, yes.
Yeah.
That way it is. And then when
However-
we go to this one,
There is a standard when you look at the map. The top of the map is always north, so there is a standard these days. But in those days, there probably wasn't.
that's a big difference.
Yeah.
How many
yeah,
degrees?
so
Who's good at degrees for that?
Well, you have to flip it around to the right. So
it's probably about 15, almost 20 degrees off, Terry.
I'd have to get the image and put it into Diagonal 2.
It, so it'd be
Well-
close to 15 or 20 degrees difference.
you can see all these doorways and channels. They all align to one central point.
If we can open it up. Oh shit. Do that. I don't know if I'm able to display this out there. You can see that, but I don't know if they're going to be able to see it.
Yeah, you probably need Photoshop to do this because it only flips it left, right, up, down.
I don't think.
You don't get to control where it goes.
Had an option to flip it around.
Yeah, see the circle icon at the top next to the heart icon? That's it. But it only flips it 4 ways.
Yeah.
So, but even by that theory, you can see.
Can they
Yeah,
see
you can
this out
see.
there?
Yeah, you
Hang on, I'll go back.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You can see there's a few, maybe about, I don't know, 20 degrees, 25 degrees.
Yeah.
You can see east-west line up. They're actually trying to go straight through. Probably make it a bit bigger,
Bing-bong.
Terry.
Or the other image?
What you guys up to?
That image.
Stuff and
Oh,
things.
mad.
Hello.
So,
Hello.
hey, man. So, what are you saying that this image? Why have they got it? For why they've got north-south running almost
Yes.
equal to that?
So, like I said from the beginning, Terry, the first image that I gave you was what they calculated the north, south, east, west to be at the time when it was built.
Right. Okay.
Where the second image is where the north is now.
Oh, okay.
So to reaffirm what Quasar was saying, that north does move. It's not necessarily fixed, especially over these long periods of time. It does actually move.
Hello,
What's-
Carl
what's-
Edwards.
What's the scale here? How many meters? Is that in meters? Naught to
Yes.
100 meters. 100 meters. So that's nearly 100 meters across. But just that bit there.
What are we looking at here?
It's a flag.
Ah,
It's the
We're looking at a map of your flat.
Trying to work out how to break into your house.
We're going for these labyrinths.
We're going to go Indiana Jones on your apartment and then do Mission Impossible.
tell you, but you'd be at the wrong place if you did. I ain't got no stairs in mine.
We're trying to work
What
out
is it?
how they used the winter or summer solstice or equinox in this temple. The orientation for north-south that way. And where was this location? Oh shit, I have to go back to the other one.
Ah, jeez.
I
So
have to change windows again.
Question. Where is this temple?
That's where I was just about to find out.
it's
Here
in
we go.
Egypt. It's in Egypt.
Yeah.
Just give me a moment and I'll give you a map.
Yeah, this
So about
is what,
750 k's north of the equator.
yeah, this is what we're trying to work out. So this is the magnificent temple of Karnak.
Do you want a grid reference or what do you want, Terry?
Whatever you can think.
Oh, it's all in bloody Hebrew. I mean, no, Egyptian. I can't. Oh,
It's
jeez.
all Greek to me.
It's
So-
all Greek.
Oh,
No, it's
great.
no, it's in Egyptian.
You're using Google Maps, aren't you, Terry?
Yeah, I've got
Copy.
Google Pro.
That's all right. I'll just give you the Google Maps link, and that's it there.
What are you giving me?
I've given you the Google Maps link.
Where?
So in the internal.
Oh, okay, it hasn't come up yet.
Oh no, hang on. Unfortunately, I sent it to No Name. No Name
I
sent
did
me
the
a.
same thing, Peter. I accidentally sent that to you instead of everyone.
I hate it when that happens.
Pair of twits.
No name. Keep it to yourself.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Okay.
we've been talking and stuff and things. There you go.
Okay.
dog talk out of school now, Peter.
What, that whole thing? That's the link.
Just click it, Terry,
Okay.
and it'll open up for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Be careful. It'll give out your IP address too.
Did it?
It'll give out my IP address.
But don't you have reCAPTCHA on there?
I don't care.
Don't want all this.
I keep telling you, Demonic, I don't care if people want to dox me or anything. I really
I know.
don't care.
I know. I've made
I'm
the
really
same
not
claim.
interesting enough to dox.
Yeah. If they go onto my Facebook account, please do have a look at the pictures of my ex, and then you'll have pity on me, and you won't dox me. However, I've got 2 lovely daughters.
I won't want to dox you.
Why not? I need friends to come and visit.
Same. Somebody dox me and send me a pizza.
So how do we work out
So-
how far off the equator that? If that's the equator, is that the equator?
You should be able to just zoom right out, Terry.
Yeah, that's
Use that starting point, and
Yeah.
I
From the
can't
equator
it won't
to
zoom out any
Alexandria.
further. It won't zoom
Yeah,
out
from
any
the-
further.
From the equator to Alexandria, it was about 800 kilometers.
Lost it now. Where'd it go? I cheated. Get rid of these things. Yeah, there it is there. Canuck. Oh, is that the one? I think we've seen that in movies.
so it's 2,827 kilometres to the equator.
Wow. I'm sure they've shown this place in a movie.
Oh, I'm sure it was on Indiana Jones.
Is that the Temple of Karnak?
Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
You'll find that was used in both Indiana Jones and also The Mummy.
Yes, that too.
And that's where Quasar sleeps.
Yep,
Oh my
there's
god, I better
quasars.
move.
There's quasar dogs.
I better move.
I
Quick,
just
Cody,
stopped
quick,
his
let's move. They
sarcophagus.
found where we are.
Look, there's all quasar's dogs. Look,
That's his
all
family.
lined up.
There's his
Yeah.
cousin, his uncle, his brother,
Hey,
second
settle,
cousin,
pedal.
second cousin.
I'm much older than that anyway, so.
Oh, so you're the real mummy.
Yeah, I think Young Earth Creationist tells a different story there, Quasar. I think you're
I
wrong.
am the mummy.
Were you there?
I was before I was there.
Oh, but were you there at 10 times 10 to the negative 36?
Try a little bit closer.
Well, you couldn't have been because that was like the split second after the Big Bang supposedly happened.
No, 10 to negative 45 is the closest.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think time could get any smaller than the Planck.
Well, that is the Planck time, 10 to negative 43, 45.
I thought it was 10 to the negative 36.
Mm,
There you go, thinking again.
yeah, no, it's a little bit closer than that.
Oh, look, we've got some dingos on a wall with squiggly lines and. What's that say, Quasar?
Got no idea. That's a deer with no eyes.
You're only showing to YouTube, Terry. You're not showing to us.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's why Quasar couldn't answer you.
Oh. Hey, you happy now?
Ah, there it is.
Yeah, better? Right, now
That's a
can
guy
can you tell me what that
riding
is?
a duck with a big head.
Riding a duck with a big head. Okay.
Oh, everybody knows that one.
Can't you see the big head?
Wait a minute.
Little eyes.
So it's not a graphical representation of the first aeroplane then?
What happened?
Oh, it's envisioning a man with flight with a big head.
I can't make it any bigger.
Looks like a baby's arm
Oh,
holding an apple.
Terry,
There you
Terry,
go.
settle
There you go.
down.
What?
That's what she said.
Oh,
Exactly,
go,
Peter.
you want me to go in more?
That's what she said.
Said the
Terry,
actress
stop
to
it!
the
You're killing
bishop.
us.
Yeah.
That's as deep as I can go. I mean, that's as far as I can go.
No, Peter. I love you. Deeper.
Deeper,
I love you.
That big head has come in useful tonight, Terry.
He's
You
got a
just
big
got
head, Terry, I tell
demonetised.
you. Stop it! You're killing me.
Radio.
That looks like a
Said the
prawn.
actress to the bishop.
Yeah, you come back to Earth, Peter.
Is that a prawn?
It smells like it.
It's the Prawn Award.
I can't. Hard to work it out.
It's a saddle.
No.
And reins.
No.
It's a mutant ninja
Wombat.
alien that's controlling the big head.
No.
How come it's got a bucket of ice cream in front of it?
With a couple of feathers stuck up his ass.
Bloody ice cream men get everywhere, don't they?
It's
I'm gonna send this stream to Toadie once Terry uploads it, and he's gonna go mental.
The only problem is they have to sit there and listen.
Okay.
I share Toadie's enthusiasm for out of place artifacts.
So did we get
And
enough?
I know they're not real.
So did we get enough out of that?
I think whoever went deeper definitely got.
Oh, yeah, she did.
I love you.
If you insist.
Ooh,
Said
sound
the
and
actress
light.
to the bishop.
Oh, they do a sound and light tour at night time in the historical park, Terry.
Wow.
Was Toadie on here earlier then?
No.
Oh.
Now, what my concern is, do I have to stop share if I change Google page?
No, it'll just magically change straight away.
Will it?
Done.
Okay, right, done. Now, this is in Egypt. We were talking about the Mayans before as well. And then also the people in Britain, it's pretty well close enough to Egypt, so somehow the word could have came through for similar knowledge. But how did the Mayans figure out anything to do with the sun? How could they have a common thought process of figuring this out?
How do you know it was common?
So
Well, the Egyptians did it.
I've got a bit of a belief here, Terry. And it goes along the whole premise that 1 + 1 is 2 in any language that you talk about. Okay, so math is a universal language, right?
Except for Flurfs.
So you're saying
Maths-
it was inevitable that man could come to the same conclusion no matter what civilizations it was?
So without trying to offend anyone's religion or anything along
I was
those
about to
lines,
say that, Peter.
right? If I put every religious textbook into a pile and every mathematical and scientific book into a pile,
Mm.
burnt the whole lot,
Yeah.
Mathematics will still remain.
right? Maths and science is still going to be rediscoverable.
And so will religion, wouldn't it?
No, because if no one knows about, if you killed absolutely every piece of information about the names of the people in the Bible, who's going to tell anyone?
They had opposes to other people's way of thinking, no matter what culture it was. English, Egyptian, Middle East. It didn't matter. They had opposer thinkers like Aristarchus and Hippocrates, right? They all turned around and said, no, you're wrong.
Aristarchus.
Yeah, Aristarchus and Copernicus.
But you don't
Copernicus.
realize you're living at the root of a tree that's been cut down, and some of it are necessary antecedents.
Oh no, Pete! How did Pete get in here?
What, do you think you're a monkey living on a spinning ball floating through
Do you
space?
think you're a monkey living on a
Yeah.
spinning water ball?
So
Copernicus. No, sorry,
I'm
go,
not a
Tony.
monkey.
I was just going to say, in essence, Terry, the whole process of following the sun, working out how long it takes to go around the Earth, working out how long it takes to go around the sun, and all of that type of stuff, you know, like all of the mathematics behind it are going to stay relatively discoverable.
Yeah, just
Yeah, that's
Hippocrates.
why the spiral pattern and the swastika pop up pretty much everywhere you go, because those are.
Oh, PJ, if you don't
What?
stop it, I'm going to ban you.
Yeah. I'm
No,
gonna
no,
Fibonacci
I'm
the
saying
hell out
like
of you,
those
mate.
are
No,
just
no.
observations.
Shush.
They're just
Hippocrates.
observation.
Hippocrates drew on hundreds of years of observations. Right? He didn't live for hundreds of years to take those observations. Okay, so he
No, it
drew on observations and concluded. The same as Copernicus. He used the church's money, right, and then left enough money on his deathbed to produce his works. Therefore, he didn't get persecuted. He was dead, but his work got published. Religions, all they do is just stick you in a spot where you can't change. That's all they do. End of story.
Yeah. So the thing is the maths behind it, Terry. Working it out, like Quasar just said, it wouldn't have been one bloke working it out. It would have been people working on other people's work, following on from their work, and continuing that pattern. Countless amounts of observations all put together in a relevant text in a way so that they could work out the maths behind it, so that they could set up these buildings in a way so that it worked. So as much as they want to disagree with it, the thing is all of these buildings, all of these things that have been built, they have been built using maths. They've been built so that they work.
And previous to them building the Matter Stone, they could have probably just been built out of wood and and they realised after 1,000 years that the wood rotted away, and they thought, well, we better build these out of something that's going to stand the test of time. They would have eventually thought of that.
They probably didn't have a lot of wood in Egypt to build stuff.
Well, they probably did, but they
You
raped
gotta
it all.
you gotta remember that climate was a lot more lush thousands of years ago too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They chopped all the trees down.
You know,
Where's
Exactly.
all your giant
well, that's
trees?
part of it, but I mean,
Where's all the
you can see
giant
the
trees in
gentrification
England?
happen.
They're all gone. Where are the bears
They-
in England? They're all gone.
They're all gone. They moved up.
There was bears in England.
Yeah. They got on a plane and went to Australia.
Yeah. And now we call them drop bears because you better look out because they'll just drop on top of you.
Job bear.
No, what's that island? Well, the Stoneheads are. Oh,
Easter Island.
Easter Island.
Mm.
Yeah,
Easter Island, yeah.
that was full of trees, right? And they chopped them all
Yeah.
down.
Most of the islands surrounding Scotland were really heavily wooded too. There's all
Exactly.
kinds of
Yeah.
evidence that they were
Bears.
deforested.
Yeah.
Well, the bears
Bloody
didn't have
bears
anything to
chop-
climb up, so they moved out.
Well,
No, they chopped all the trees down and
Well,
moved.
they got killed. So
Yeah.
where are they going to go? It's an island. They can't chop trees down, make boats, and ship out. So
They could dog paddle.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be bear paddle?
Yeah, bear paddle. Sorry.
They
Well,
good
I still
swimmers,
think
bears.
dogs invented it.
Yeah, dogs. Yeah, they had nowhere to hide, so they've been easier to kill, wouldn't
yeah, a bit like the Tasmanian tiger.
Mm.
they? The dodo.
Really? I thought we weren't bringing up Pete Shea anymore.
We thought you were Pete Shea. Sorry.
Was it that good of an impression?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was getting there. I was about to kick you.
I've been working on it.
Very good impression. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. So obviously the next section is getting in beyond what we want to just yet. So I'd say we have to stick with the winter and summer solstice. I think we've nearly covered that, I suppose. I can't see any progression from there after that for any usages. Because why did it get stopped using then? Why did they stop? Why did civilization stop using this system? Ah,
Satellites.
no, before that, I'm talking about back then. Like the
Sundials.
civilizations died out, yes.
Or farming.
The Roman Empire started fighting with each other. And,
Well, you had farming,
It-
Terry.
It's
We could
not-
plot on a calendar when this, that, and the other happened.
Yeah, but what was their calendar after this?
Yeah. But that's just
Well,
it, Terry. From this, it went from tablets and to buildings. So from there, it went onto a piece of paper or cloth on the wall. You know, it went from. You know, they developed numbers, they developed paper, they developed a way of every home having this. They didn't need a building to turn around and say, well, it's the equinox now. You have to start planting your corn.
Yeah, but what device or
They developed
whatever
a calendar.
they developed
Terry.
after this?
A calendar,
Yeah,
a
but
paper calendar.
yeah, when was that first developed?
Oh,
didn't the Romans start bringing that in?
Fuck knows.
oh, geez, hang on. Google
Well, there's the
first
Roman
calendar.
calendar. There's the Julian calendar. They had
Isn't there a
they
Greek?
had problems because when they got to the end of the year, there was an extra day, so that they changed it. There was a Georgian calendar, which is what we relate to now as a Georgian calendar, where we add a day every 4.
Bronze Age.
Is that leap year this year?
I don't know.
So it was dependent on the development of writing in the ancient Near East. The Sumerian calendar was the earliest, followed by the Egyptian. Okay, well that doesn't make sense because we just looked at the calendar the Egyptians were using and it was buildings. So that was their calendar, was a building.
So it's a similar thing though, Terry. Okay, so even when watches and clocks were brought in to being, so you would still have to set your watch from the clock in the house, and that the clock in the house was set from the main clock that was in the town. So you still needed something to set everything from, and that would have been this building.
Yeah, there were problems from early calendars.
Mm.
Some calendars put you 10 days out of sync every year. Keeping time was also another issue.
Geez, how are you even supposed to read some of these calendars? $15.82. How's that having to hang up on your wall and go figure it out?
1, 2, 3, 4, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. How did that work?
That's how my days go.
No, that fits into the 10-day difference every year. So if you were born on a certain day at a certain year, the next year your birthday fell on a different day.
Or you didn't have one at all.
Yeah, well, that would happen to most because of record keeping.
Yeah.
I've got no idea how that's supposed to be, but that's some sort of
Mayan
calendar.
calendar goes for 26,000 years. Which kind of fits into a few things with the way Earth travels through the solar system as it travels around the galaxy.
Didn't the Mayan calendar just recently come to the end? It just
but then it
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, but then it resets. They have a reset.
Yep.
Did they run out of print then?
They run out of numbers.
They ran out of people trying to decipher it.
Because there was a conspiracy going around as the Mayan calendar came to the end that something horrible was going to happen, and let's face it, the horrible thing was the next day. And there was a lot of information going around saying that although the Mayan calendar did technically run out, that it was actually one of the more accurate calendars for its time because it was not set up on a year-by-year process.
No, it was set up to... Well, they were one of the first people to work out that we travelled around another system, in a system.
Spaceman, go back to sleep.
Yeah. What are you doing here, Spaceman?
Are you supposed to be
go
asleep?
back to sleep. Yeah.
Ignore Spaceman out there in the side chat, but just pretend he's not there.
He's supposed to be asleep in
Can I
bed.
time him out?
I'll time him out. That way he can go back to sleep.
All right, I'll time him out now.
We're only doing it because we love you.
Yeah. We're all just thinking of your best interests, Spacey. You want to be fresh and bright for the next day.
Oh, hang on.
Why aren't we dead yet, Anna said. Can't sleep but in bed. Oh, jeez. Do you want us to sing you a lullaby or something?
Do you want a hug and to be tucked in?
Hannah isn't here.
Oh.
Casual, come and tuck you in. He's used to tuck in.
Put on a good science dog, Casual. They'll send you to sleep.
Go and watch Super Rats. He always puts me to sleep.
No, that'll tear you up.
Fucking nightmares.
Factart's trying to hypnotise him to sleep. You are getting sleepy, sleepy.
Flat Earth, you're sleepy. Flat Earth, you're sleepy. Oh my god, I'm going crazy.
Okay,
I
see if we
see
can find another
Davros
calendar.
was.
Here we go.
Well, the Earth is actually slowing down in its period. There's no factual calendar of the Earth by second, by hour.
Open image in new tab. Okay, see if we can read this. 365 days, 3 seasons, 12 months, 3 weeks of 10 days. Flood? What's flood got to do with it?
That's the rainy season, isn't it?
I don't know, it says the civil ancient
It's when the
Egyptian
Nile,
calendar.
when the Nile floods.
Yes,
The
yes. I
Nile
think
floods and it brings all that
Yeah.
silt and then they drag it away to farm.
Yeah, but are they predicting the years? Because these years are more recent compared to ancient. I don't know what they mean here by the year. Was this something they still use, or?
No, that's by month, not by year.
Yes, I thought it was for a year. Oh, it's actually I couldn't read properly. Sorry. From 19/07. I don't know what.
Yeah, so they got 4 weeks to sow.
Sowing. From 16/11 to 15/12. Okay. Is that their date they're saying, from the 16th of the 11th to the 15th of the 12th? Is that what they're meaning? I think. Harvest. Okay. I've no idea what this is. Down the bottom, it's only got 5 days.
Well, the Mayan calendar went for 26,000 years.
Yeah. I can't read that one.
And then there was a reset. Whether it meant new beginning or a started change. But they knew a lot more than what the other people around the world were doing.
Where were the Mayans from?
Well, that was South Americans, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were South America.
Yeah, South America.
Yeah, it's right there on the Yucatan Peninsula. That was the Mayan people. They're still around too.
But they were saying that in the Mayan calendar, there was an ultimate end.
Hmm. But it wasn't the 2012 one you're saying. That was just the end of. Well, that's what they.
That was the end of them, I expect.
No, it's hard to talk about because what they were saying was that every 26,000 years their calendar would reset, but there would become a period where there would be no reset.
Oh yeah, but the Mayans knew that didn't mean the end of the world. Okay.
Yeah, but there was no reset of the calendar. They envisioned that this would ultimately come to an end. Whether that meant
Disaster.
They could have just run out of room on that rock.
Sorry, you broke up.
I guess his calendar came to an end.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. He's gone. So must have been done a while back. This saying it's not as confusing as it may seem. The ancient Maya kept time in a very different way than we do today, and their hieroglyph-heavy calendar can seem daunting. But the basic principle is simply that the Maya were counting the days.
Yeah, it's because you actually weren't there to witness what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
When they turn around and say there will be not. Basically, what they said was every 26,000 years, the calendar would be reset. But ultimately, they turn around and said at the point of this calendar would never be reset.
It's saying here that they used 3 different calendars. One was a sacred calendar, which lasted 260 days, then started over again. Okay.
Well,
The
they
second,
even took into account for leap years, so they weren't that stupid.
the second one was a secular calendar, which lasted 365 days, which didn't account for the extra quarter day it took to the Earth to revolve around the Sun. Okay. And
The long count calendar
and the
was
final
the
calendar.
end.
Yeah.
So in the Mayan days, would they had a bloke walking around with a placard going, "The end is nigh. The end is nigh."
Well, do you think they were around for 26,000 years?
Well, I don't know.
No, they weren't.
Oh,
But they actually
died out.
predicted in their calendar the calendar would be reset every 26,000 years. But when you take this calendar to its fruition, there would be no ending date, which would mean that there is an end to everything.
So there's no descendants of the Mayans then? There's got to be.
No, they got taken out by the Spanish, so then they moved to the higher lands, and
No.
there they died.
No, the Mayan people are still around.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
just the
culture
died.
got demolished
Yeah.
by the Spaniards, of course. You know, the conquistadors and the priests and everything. But no, the people are still there.
That's like the Nazca lines in South America. You can see it from high altitude. They draw on the land.
Yeah.
They had drawings of astronaut.
That was for their gods to land, John.
Yeah. Well,
That's only 3, Globy. That's only 3. I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting how the cultures like South America were similar, but not the same to some parts of the rest of the world.
Well, the Nazca lines wasn't only for the gods; it's for like where the stars and their positions. The Aztecs worship gods too, so.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. We've got something. The long count calendar may not predict doomsday, but it is good at covering long periods of time. Dates are written out of 5 numbers separated by 4 periods. The ancient Maya represented these not with numerals, of course, but with their own hieroglyphs. The rightmost position is called the kin.
KN.
Yeah, which counts single days. Okay, 13,001, for example. The kin counts up to 19, then flips back to 0. with counting picked back up by the next position, the unal. So 13,000,19 would become 13,000,10. Oh, so it only went to 20. Is that right?
Yeah.
I went to 19 and then flipped around and then went to there.
Yeah.
Okay, just like a car odometer, yeah.
Yeah.
And then each unal in thus is a block of 20 days. The kin position then picks back up, counting up to that 20, which then gets added to the unal. So the day after that would be that plus 1, and then so on. Okay. The unal can't pronounce.
So they weren't far out.
Each run is then blocks, thus blocks 18 blocks of 20 days, or 360 days. Okay.
Yeah.
They weren't far. No,
Which
they
one-
weren't very far off, just by using
No,
those
they weren't.
numbers.
You do tie knot in it, Globy.
So could you say
Just
that
tie
that could be like a month, 18 like of 18 months of 20 days, and then it ended up being 60. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah. You could say that.
So turn in turn, count up to 20 before rolling over. There's 20 blocks of 360 days. Each cartoon translate into 7,200 days, or just less than 20 years. The cartoon place then counts up before rolling over into the final digit. If that word sounds familiar, because it's because December 21st, 2012, on our calendar marks the end of the 13th Buckton of the main long count calendar. In other words, it's the day the count will read 13,000,000 on December 22, and we will read 13,000,001. So each Bacton is 4,000 days long, or a little less than 400 years. To the ancient Maya, 13 Bactons represented a full cycle of creation. One carving refers to a god associated with calendar changes returning that day. There are no apocalyptic prophecies, however. In fact, the Maya had several rarely used units that were even larger than Bactons, giving them the capacity to count millions of years into the future. Wow.
So the Aztecs were before the Mayans, weren't they? Long before.
Roughly about.
They were concurrent.
Yeah, they overlapped.
Oh, right.
They had a cultural war.
Oh, between the Mayans and Aztecs.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. And the Mayans won. Mayan.
No.
Oh.
So the Aztec people were like a North American tribe of Native American Indians that moved south into Mexico and pretty well conquered the indigenous people, replacing most of their culture with their own, or, kind of absorbing it into their own and making it their own. The Mayans were, a good bit further south, east. And, there was clashes at the border between those cultures, but really they both got wiped out by the conquistadors, by disease, and pitting one group against the other. And, eventually they just got pacified. And just like what happened to a lot of Native American Indians in North America, they were forced to attend religious services and they got converted, and then they lost a lot of their culture and languages, but some of it still survived. And, some of the really interesting finds are actually in those old churches down there where, a priest was empathetic and wrote it all down So we've got some, continuation of their traditions and cultures. Otherwise, it would be just completely alien to us.
Yeah, a lot of those conquistadors burnt all the records. That was the priest that wrote down the records, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's always there's never any kind of monolithic group, where everybody follows the same orders. So there's always going to be somebody who kind of defects and does the right thing, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say life started in Africa. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So why is Africa so far behind the rest of the world?
That's
well, I mean, it
good
got
question.
pretty well colonized by the various cultures all over the world.
I'd say intellectually, the Middle East type area developed more intellectually first, and then they used Africa as slaves because that's what the slaves were that help build the pyramids even.
Well, the Ethiopians were the domineering culture in Africa until I think up till 17th century, when Napoleon ventured into North Africa and started conquering it. Then
like I said, the colonials did the same thing in Africa that we did in South America.
And what the Australians did to the Aboriginals.
Yeah.
Yep. We show up, we go, "Are you white? No.
No.
Do you have a flag?
No.
Okay. Well,
sorry.
Guess you're screwed.
You're booted off the island.
Yep. Do you have a flag?
Nope.
You can't have a country if you don't have a flag.
Of course not. Yeah, it's quite. Tip top. Has Kazban got a flag?
But yeah, I pretty much lay anti-intellectual thought to that. Oh crap! They, in the Middle East, in right around 1000 AD, a pretty powerful imam came out and as very anti-math, anti-science, and that spread through that culture like wildfire, and eventually became kind of satanic to do math and science. And luckily enough, right around that same time, the Crusades were going on, and a lot of that information, got looted and taken back to Europe, and that's, a couple of hundred years later, you start having the Renaissance because of it.
Bruce Bates said, "Laugh out loud. This is funny being native." Well, where are you native to, Bruce Bates?
That was a clerk in the 1300s, wasn't it? What stopped all the Islam.
Oh, was it 13? Okay, I was thinking it was earlier than that, but you're probably right.
Yes,
my history knowledge of the medieval Islamic period is slightly lacking. I'll grant that.
Yeah, that's why 3/4 of the stars in our solar system are named are Islamic, because they used to be great astronomers and everything, and then this one clerk decided that maths was the root of all evil and science was evil, and he
when
banned
you say
it.
clerk, I think of a dude sitting behind a desk counting money. Using those little old-timey tape thing.
Yeah.
How
early on was that known to have been when they banned science in that culture?
1300.
I think it was before BC, obviously before, but in BC sometime.
No, it was 1300.
No, it was AD.
Oh, it was more recent.
AD. 1300
Oh yeah,
AD,
Islam didn't start until what, 670 something.
It's only like 700 years old, isn't it?
Yeah, because what I've read is
it's 1400 years old now.
Because what I've read, which which was interesting, was if that didn't happen, the banning of science and learning and knowledge, what advancements would they have got to by now? Because they were well ahead of their time.
Oh shit, we'd all be speaking Muslim, Arabic, and
Yeah,
we'd all
but
be
would
Muslim.
would we be on the moon or on the Mars type technology by now? That would have been an interesting part of it too.
Yeah.
Terry, I got to point something out to you, buddy. I even missed this. Mandelbrot says there are no stars in our solar system.
You beat me to it. I was just about.
Mandelbrot.
We've got one.
You've just
we've
lost
got one big
There is
star.
one.
Yeah,
There is one.
Sorry. In our universe, sorry, Mandelbrot. That's a slip of the tongue. But we do have one star.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
Shit, if we had no.
But yeah, that's.
If we didn't have the sun, our whole show. Okay.
Ollie knew about the Muslim clerk through Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was explaining it one night about all the solar systems.
I love old Neil.
Oh, will somebody bloody time out Casual Spaceman and tell him to get to bed or sleep or whatever?
We can't. He's got a spanner.
Here we go. I can get him. You watch.
Yeah.
Where's timeout? Put user in timeout. There, go to sleep.
Terry, you are mean, mate.
Well, in 300 seconds, see if he falls asleep.
Terry's as bad as being on 24/7 flat Earth, man.
Yeah, I'll mute your dumb ass.
Yeah. I say hi and get booted sometimes.
I don't know, how do you undo it? Isn't there an undo button?
Oh dear.
Oh, sorry.
And Grizz answered your question, but too, by the way, he says he's Navajo.
Oh, sorry, Casual. I can't undo
Arizona.
it.
I'm Comanche, my blood.
Oh, no.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought
you could undo time.
Yeah, my great grandmother on my dad's side was a full-blooded Iroquois.
Sorry, I missed that. What was that? Your granddaddy's what?
Oh, my great grandmother on my dad's side of the family was full-blooded Iroquois.
Oh, cool.
My family's from.
Gotta leave money in the swear jar.
Yeah, I know.
You hide in tall grass and
the old, one of the oldest known observatories is about, I think, 8,000 BC. I'll go back and take a look at it again. It's in
Okay.
Turkey, I think.
If it's a document of information, put it in TechDoc videos. If it's something
Put it where?
Keep. Well, if it's a reference material type information, I'll put it in TechDoc videos.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, it's a paper from Stanford.edu, so I don't know how that works as far as sharing it, but I'll take a look and see if there's any copyright.
I'm getting bagged out in the peanut gallery for timing out Casual.
Yeah, you are, aren't you?
Anyone else got any complaints?
Okay,
I'll time you out too.
oh God, look out!
It says here, Terry, that permission is given for educational, non-commercial purposes. Copyrights for much of the material and images remain with their creators. So you can probably share the information just fine, but not the pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just post it in the chat if anybody wants it.
Yeah, there'd be you think how far ahead of we'd be if they didn't ban.
Do we actually know what type of science or whatever they were up to at the time? Has that ever been found out?
Well, yeah, it's all documented, but I don't know. You'd have to do some research on it.
Okay.
But they're quite clever people, though. Because that's what their religion was based on, science and maths.
What happened to my secretary? Did they knock off for the day?
I think so.
I've never heard that claim made before. I didn't know Islam was based on science and math. Usually talking donkeys and flying unicorns and cracking the moon are normally associated with math and science. Pretty sure old Muhammad was illiterate too. So. Let's see. Why can't I paste?
I'm trying to work out what to type.
I had an Italian wife, and I said to her, "Do you know that the Moors invaded the Middle East for about 700 years?" And she turned around and said to me, "What's that got to do with anything?" And I said, "Well, you got Negro blood in you." She turned around and said, "No, I don't." I said, "Yes, you do."
Well, everybody does.
That was probably the end of my marriage.
Oh, okay.
Oh wow.
Whoops.
Sound like you got out at just the right time.
Yeah, it was the beginning of the end. So yeah, it was all right. But even her dad, right? He said to me, I said to him, I said, "Do you know why you got olive skin?" He goes, "No, why?" And I said, "Because you're a mixed breed with the Negroes." And he said, "No, I'm not." I said, "Well, why don't you go look at the Moors?" All right. And, that was the end of my marriage with his daughter, anyway. So yeah.
A sense of humor, mate.
Yeah, that's a bit cruel. John Rapp, Frere Jacques at Casual Spaceman.
Nah.
Just rub it in a bit more.
Well, there seems to be a lot of information about Islam and science, so that might have to wait for another time.
Algebra is built on Arabic numerals, so we use it. We still use it. We still use them all the time.
Funny thing about that, though, you know what the Arabs called Arabic numerals? They called them Hindu numerals. No, they got them from. No, they didn't invent.
Well, I didn't know that.
I had a mouthful of food. You know, I just found this out recently too. I love this this channel, Digital Hammurabi, and they're like Middle Eastern experts or Syriologists, and you always pick up little tidbits from Josh and his wife.
No, name. It sounds like you're about 10 miles away from your microphone.
Oh, hold on.
Take your helmet off.
Is that any better?
That's much better.
Wow, what did you do?
Okay, good deal. I walked 10 miles closer to my microphone.
Yeah, 10 miles closer.
That
would help.
It is best to be in the same room as your microphone.
Yeah, preferably in the same vicinity as in the same room.
I got a big place, y'all. What can I say? It's like the Temple of Karnak.
Oh, who's bragging?
We've got an echo.
We're going to echo.
Who's echoing?
Echo.
Hello, Echo.
That's no name.
Well, it can't be me. I have my microphone muted.
Echo.
If you were 10 miles away from your microphone, you're not wearing a headset.
Yeah. Or you got a long lead.
No, his microphone should be still on his face if he's got a long lead. Jesus Christ. Yeah. What were we talking about?
I don't know. We're trying to get Casual Spaceman to get to sleep. We have to find something. We have to find something to bore him.
Well, he had a nap for about 20 minutes or so. It's not good enough, though.
Well, how about we find a video?
Yeah, 20 minutes should be good.
You got any videos?
Yeah, I got one there for the Greek astronomy.
Look.
That'll put you to sleep.
Yeah. What's this? It's 6:20 where he lives now. Yeah, I know that. He's he's supposed to go to sleep before the sun gets up. Yeah, sing him a lullaby, John. No, not you, John. The other John.
Oh, sorry, mate. I've got a bad voice anyway.
Fits for homework. got ancient Greek. Yeah, when you put videos in for homework, you have to check.
Yes, I've marked it. It's reusable.
Okay.
Commas. Yeah.
Okay. Who's posted anything out there? Where's Wally? Scroll down. Oh, what have we got here? Got Mr. Sensible. Where's Wally? Another Where's Wally? Mr. Sensible. Casual Sleep Man.
Casual Sleep Man.
Yeah, Casual Sleep Man. Yeah. Okay. That's in the chill your shit stuff. And bits for homework. John Stock put in ancient Greek astronomy. Okay.
Yeah,
That seems sort of relevant, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the stuff Quasar was talking about. Yeah, all the Greek.
Okay. All right. How long's that go for? That only goes for 15 minutes. I think we can get Casual to go to sleep by then. If he's not asleep by the end of this video, there's something wrong. Now you wait.
Enough to put you to sleep.
Well, Professor Bell's out. Sorry, Matt.
I was going to say, I see Sleepy Warrior's got the most votes for Dumb Idiot of the Year.
Mad.
Yes.
We're trying to stay away from flat Earth.
Oh, so I just...
Please.
I see...
Please do not...
Just put it in Discord.
Do not invoke flat Earth. It's just...
We were talking about it before, about choosing a title for the Dead Dingo's Donger Award.
No, that wasn't just about flat Earth. That was about just general...
Okay.
You know what?
Okay.
Idiocy.
You know, friggin' what's Terry, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Flat
Earth is dead.
Now
anybody who talks about...
Okay.
Listen,
look.
If anybody talks about flat Earth, they're fucking stupid, all right? If they want to continue on about flat Earth, lose them. It's a dead end story. It's just completely defunct. It's fucking bullshit. Seriously.
Yeah, but apart from that, what's wrong with it?
I said my piece.
Okay.
I'll pay for you.
Did you not hear me?
$20.
Did you not?
Keep going, Casual. I mean, Quasar, you can fill up the jar.
No, I will not keep on going with this phone, right? Because it was in good cause.
Yeah.
But seriously, flat Earth is dead. Seriously, if you want to keep on going, go off into a little loop by yourself, and we'll talk back to you in about 20 years.
Yeah. Spot on, mate.
Okay.
That's flat Earth in a nutshell. You keep on talking about flat Earth. It's really, really benign. It's God.
It's dead.
I'll ask you a question,
it's pushing up the derrits.
Do you know equations and formulas and scientific methods and measurements and astronomical positions of planets and stars, and how far away the moon is, how far away the sun is, how far a light year is? You want me to keep going?
You waffle on about 50 different subjects.
Right.
I can't even hope to know.
Well, that's where I am. I'm at below that. I don't know about all those things, so a lot of those things I'm learning.
Well, I'm actually with you, Terry. So where were you going with that kind of crap?
Well, that's where I'm learning it. The only reason I'm learning it is because I heard about people thinking the Earth's flat, and once I started going into the measurement side of things, and I'm learning all the measurements and things that prove what we do live on, and what we learn, and what I've learned is how to do all these math, or learn. I'm trying to learn. So I've got some knowledge. So I've got some knowledge about things.
So do you actually think the Earth is flat?
No. It's
Well,
not
then
that
why
I
would
don't
you
think it
bother?
is.
Why would you
It's not that I
bother?
don't think it is. I don't see any
Why would you
evidence.
bother? Why would you bother? I mean, the first law of perspective puts flat Earth dead in the water. Why would you even bother?
Because I'm learning.
It's got nothing to do with learning.
Yeah, learning's all part of it.
No. Building on what we know, we don't need to keep on going back to the first instance. It's ridiculous. So thinking the Earth is flat, even though we've got all these instruments and mathematics to prove that it's not, and then going back to, but what if it is? It's sort of ridiculous.
I think you're misreading Terry's logic.
I was with Terry. I am with Terry's logic, and going back to the first instance, how do we know? Is not like, without insulting you, Terry. Why would you do that? Why? What?
Why do
Well,
I want to? Why do I want to learn what is and not?
No. Why would you think that the Earth is flat?
But I don't think the Earth is flat.
So why do you keep thinking that?
But I don't.
Okay, so forget it.
Okay.
There you go. Problem fixed.
Okay, play Terry.
Oh well, that's the end of the show. Nothing to see here.
You saw nothing. No, seriously, why do you keep on going back to?
But what I'm doing here is I can't see the connection to flat Earth.
No, it's knowledge.
You actually just brought it up, and now you're saying what we see here. I can't see how there's no flat Earth. Am I wrong? Am I right?
I don't know. I don't understand the.
You just said.
You asked me, do I think the Earth is flat? And I said no.
Okay, there we go. Where do you want to go from there?
We'll continue with what I do.
Okay, science and technology.
Yes,
Let's go.
Exactly.
Let's go. Yeah, we've already deciphered the Earth's not flat. These people that think the Earth's flat is pretty stupid. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It keeps on going back to these people. Like before, the Americans came in and said, let's have a dumb F of the Year award, right? Blah blah blah, and then you actually want to do the same thing.
But like I said, it doesn't matter if the person's a flat earther or not. It's just it's a person that does something silly or stupid or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it doesn't have to be a flat earther.
If you read my text message to you before, did you read it?
Mm.
Yeah. Don't go down those lines. It will diminish what you're doing. No flat Earth. Just oh God. Where do you go from there? Seriously,
round one.
where do you go from flat Earth? I mean, we know the Earth's not flat. It's stupid to actually go back and rehash why the Earth's not flat.
Trying to explain to idiots who don't want to listen to you is no point.
Well, it makes up like about 0.000.1% of the internet. Why?
Exactly.
Why? I keep on asking myself, why do you guys keep talking about flat Earth? Why? Makes no sense to me.
Well, it's not a question of talking about flat Earth. We're talking about different other things. Just a flow on different things. It's just a conversational piece.
That's where we want to go, John. That's where we want to go.
It's we don't brag on with flat Earth all the time. We also go with knowledge, interest, other people, personalities on the panel. It's all a group thing.
That's where you want to go. But some people want to keep on talking about idiots talking about flat Earth.
Well, it's part of the drama. It's in all of us nature. We spout it out.
It is part of the drama, but seriously, how many times do you want to flog a dead horse?
No, we don't flog it all the time. It's just we got to.
Talk up, John. We can hardly hear you.
Oh, hang on. We don't babble on it most of the time, or we just like to express our opinions, everybody else's opinions, get other people on different parts of the world, integrate ideas. It's a good platform Terry has. It's working well. But, you can't have one sort of rule for one platform. It sort of progresses as it goes. Yeah, it's what happens. It forms
flat Earth, flat Earth, flat Earth.
No, not all the time, mate. Terry's about to play a video about ancient Greek astronomy. Yeah, it's educational. Now we have different ideas about it. You were talking about Greek stuff. Yeah, it'll back up the stuff you were trying to say.
That's where we were going.
Yeah. So there's no drama.
Okay, John.
It's all good. No worries, mate.
Terry?
What?
What?
It's all right, mate. Whatever opinions.
Hello.
Does anyone want to watch this video?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Go for it.
Hey, Mad B. Hey, John. Hey, No Name.
Hello, sheeples.
Hey, Sheepy.
Hey, doing? I'm back.
Let's talk a little bit about how we came to know what we know today. Now, to begin the story of astronomy, we could easily take it as far back as the earliest cavemen who looked up to the sky and wondered what was up there. But for the sake of brevity, we're going to just limit our discussion for the time being to the ancient Greeks. Turns out that there's a lot of ideas that the ancient Greeks popularized that still hold to this day, and many, of course, that have been since discarded. We begin our story with Aristotle, who was a major proponent of the idea of the so-called geocentric universe. That is, the moon, Mercury, sun, and all the planets all were revolving around the Earth, with the Earth at the center of the universe. This was a very easy idea to come to. After all, everything in the sky appears to be moving around us. It just seemed to make sense that so did the planets, and perhaps fixed upon the sky were the stars themselves. Now, one thing that Aristotle, and indeed most of the ancient Greeks, believed was that the Earth was in fact round. And the reason why is because they observed lunar eclipses. If you notice the way the Earth's shadow passes along the face of the moon, you'll notice that the shadow is curved. And it turns out that the only object capable of casting a circular shadow is a spherical object. So for this reason, as well as some other lines of evidence, the Greeks well understood that the Earth was round. And today, thanks to the internet, more people believe that the Earth is flat than at any time since the 1400s. Yay, progress. Anyway, it turns out, though, that the idea that the Earth was at the center of the universe wasn't 100% shared among all Greek thinkers. Aristarchus of Samos, for example, gave us the first known heliocentric model. In other words, he proposed that the sun was at the center of the cosmos and everything revolved around the sun. He published his ideas in something called On the Size and Distances, and he used lunar eclipses to work out the relative distances and sizes of the Earth, Sun, and Moon. He also proposed that the stars were distant suns and that the universe was vast. However, his idea that the sun might be at the center of the universe was largely rejected. The reasoning went something like this. If the stars were at varying distances from the sun, and if the sun were at the center of, well, what we now know today to be our solar system, and Earth were to be traveling around in an orbit, from one location we should be able to look at a relatively nearby star and see its apparent image projected onto the background stars. And that means that 6 months later, we should be able to make a similar observation and see that same star, this time with its position shifted with respect to the background stars. So this phenomenon is the phenomenon of parallax, and it's a phenomenon that you and I are familiar with all the time. We have two eyes, and our brains work constantly to take the information from each eye and infer a distance to some object. And it's a useful thing for, well, not running into everything all the time. Well, what happened was that the Greeks decided to test this idea by enlisting their very best visually acute individuals. They even pulled soldiers from their ranks who specialized in scouting, and they looked at the brightest stars, hoping to detect a parallax. Unfortunately, no parallax could be detected, and therefore, the Greeks largely just gave up on the idea of heliocentrism in favor of geocentrism. Another Greek thinker was Aristophanes of Cyrene. He actually made the first calculation of the Earth's circumference. And his calculation went something like this. There was a column in the city of Alexandria, what is now modern-day Egypt. There was also a well at Syene. And it turned out that the distance between the two was something about 5,000 stadia. Aristophanes learned that the incoming sunlight on the day of the summer solstice, the sun would be directly overhead Syene. And that means that from the bottom of the well, the sun would be directly visible. At the same time, Aristophanes learned that there was a shadow being cast at the column of Alexandria. So, invoking a little bit of simple geometry, Aristophanes reasoned that, well, the shadow makes a 7-degree angle. That means the sunlight is 7 degrees tilted from the vertical at Alexandria, and therefore the opposite angle must also be 7 degrees. So if we were to draw an imaginary line from both of these locations to the center of the Earth, that means that the angle should be there 7 degrees as well. Now 7 degrees is equal to about a 50th of a circle. And since the distance between the two were 5,000 stadia, then 50 times 5,000 stadia gives you 250,000 stadia. Now, depending upon what the actual value of the stadia was relative to today's units, it turns out that Aristophanes may have come very close to measuring the actual circumference, at worst within about 20%, but he may have done as well as 1%. So it's a remarkably accurate result using just some simple geometry and reasoning. This brings us to Hipparchus of Nicaea. His work involved making a detailed catalog of stars and also measuring the first brightness system, something that we call the apparent magnitude, and it's a system that we still use today, albeit with some modification. Hipparchus's magnitude system works something like this. As we see the sun set toward the late afternoon and early evening, the first stars come out. And he assigned these stars magnitude 1. They were, after all, the brightest stars, and therefore they would be the first magnitude, the first stars seen after sunset. A little while later, more stars would come out, and so he assigned these magnitude 2, were the second brightest stars. As more stars emerged, they would be designated third magnitude, fourth, fifth, and so on, until reaching about magnitude 6. Hipparchus not only cataloged the stars by their brightness, but he was very careful to measure their positions in the sky. And he did something else. He compared his measurements of the positions of stars to the ancient Babylonians and Mesopotamians. and he discovered something rather remarkable. Now, to explain this, I'd like to take a different perspective. Instead of viewing things from the Earth, let's go ahead and view things from an imaginary viewpoint south of the Earth's South Pole. We're looking at a very wide-angle view of the sky. We have the North Celestial Pole up to our top, and we have modern-day Ursa Minor, and the bright star on the very end of the handle would be Polaris, our present-day North Star. Now, in the lower left, we see the intersection of the celestial equator in red and the sun's path through the sky, the ecliptic in green. And to make things a little bit more visible for us, I chose a date when the sun happened to be located at the vernal equinox. So it looks like it's close to Pisces, but believe it or not, in Hipparchus's era, the vernal equinox was considered to be in Aries. Now, the reason why I show you this is because Hipparchus made very careful measurements of the positions of these stars. And when he compared his measurements to the measurements of the ancient Babylonians and Mesopotamians, he determined that their positions were a little bit different. In fact, every star in the sky was systematically shifted by a few degrees. And what Hipparchus was able to do was intuit that it wasn't that the sky was moving around, but rather that the Earth itself must be wobbling like a top. And this wobbling is called precession.
There you go.
It turns out we now know today that the Earth has a 26,000 year precession cycle. The Earth's axis is pointing to different locations in the sky over time. This has some interesting implications because if we could wind the clock backward to say 3000 BC, you'll notice that the North Celestial Pole is nowhere near Polaris. It is instead rather close to the star Thuban in the constellation Draco the Dragon. Likewise, the vernal equinox is also located in the constellation of Taurus. Fast forward 1,000 years, the North Celestial Pole now precesses away from Thuban, and the vernal equinox makes its way toward Aries. By 1000 BC, we're getting farther from Draco at the north and farther from Taurus at the vernal equinox. We are certainly in the constellation of Aries. And it is for this reason that to this day, the vernal equinox is still sometimes known as the first point of Aries. In other words, it represents the location of the vernal equinox when Hipparchus was doing his work. At around the turn of the millennium, the vernal equinox had moved firmly toward Pisces, and if we continue to just move forward in time, you'll see that by 2000 or so, the North Celestial Pole was right almost exactly where Polaris is today. So if we continue to let things move along and let the Earth continue to wobble along its precession, you'll see that over 26,000 years, we will no longer have a North Pole star of Polaris. We'll instead have Vega in a few thousand years before eventually coming around back again toward Thuban. So we'll be returning to a orientation of the North Celestial Pole that was very similar to the orientation of the Earth when the ancient Egyptians built their pyramids. So at the center of the pyramid are the king's burial chambers, and there are two air vents that are directed, one on the left facing to the south and one on the right facing to the north. And the position and the angle of this air vent was carefully chosen such that looking through the air vent from inside the burial chamber would reveal the star Thuban. This was the North Star of the time that the pyramids were built. This way, the king could gaze upon the circumpolar stars and watch them revolve around the North Star Thuban for all of eternity. This was a very sacred idea to the ancient Egyptians. So what would that look like? Well, there's Thuban circled for us. This was the North Star of its day. And here we are in about 3000 before the Common Era. And we can see that the stars are circumpolar surrounding Thuban, which was almost at the time at the location of the North Celestial Pole. It turns out that most of the works of the ancient Greeks, Babylonians, and Mesopotamians were lost in the Great Fire of the library at Alexandria. However, Claudius Ptolemy was careful to compile much of that work and published his ideas in something called the Almagest, the greatest. In other words, he was paying tribute to the greats that had come before him. So he was able to popularize the idea of the geocentric model. Again, this was the prevailing idea of the ancient Greeks. It seemed to make the most sense despite a few dissenters. And it was also Ptolemy who gave the first explanation for something called retrograde motion. And this idea would dominate for over 1,500 years, well into the next millennium. Let's talk a little bit about retrograde motion for a moment. Retrograde motion is simply the apparent shift in the position of the planets. So given a planet's normal tendency, it will seem to go eastward or prograde, but then once in a while, the planet will appear to backtrack. This is the retrograde motion before resuming its prograde motion once again. Now, for everything to rise in the east and set in the west, it would be perfectly reasonable to conclude that the Earth was at the center of the cosmos. But this retrograde motion was an anomaly. It did not make sense. So, in order to make the retrograde motion work, rather than having Mars in this example and all of the planets directly revolving around the Earth, Ptolemy introduced a new concept called the epicycle. The epicycle was an invisible circle that carried Mars, and the epicycle itself revolved around something called a deferent. And it would be this epicycle moving about the deferent that would create the apparent retrograde motion. So you can imagine yourself on Earth looking at Mars, and it appears to be going in prograde motion before executing a slight zigzag back and forth in the sky, giving us retrograde motion. Now, this was a good first order approximation, but the problem, though, is that the epicycle that we see here just would not be accurate enough to predict when the next retrograde motions would be. To solve this problem, Ptolemy introduced a modification to his ideas. He introduced a equant, that is, the Earth is still very much at the center of the cosmos, but the epicycle, the deferent, and so forth, now were centered on an offset point called an equant. And this is what helped to make the retrograde motion of Mars and all of the planets be a little bit more on time, do a slightly better job of predicting exactly when these retrogrades would occur. Even then, sometimes additional modifications would be required, not the least of which was adding an additional epicycle to the epicycle. Things got a little bit complex over time. And this was a major problem because while the epicycle model did an extremely good job of predicting retrograde motions for about 1,500 years, it was at the same time a little bit messy. And it allowed some people to begin to think maybe there were alternatives and maybe some of these ideas to the geocentric model should be revisited.
There we go.
That was a good video.
It's explainable. Anybody could, yeah. The 3-year-old can understand that.
Some of it, I guess. It was well drawn, that's for sure. That was the best explanation of Thuban that I've seen in a working diagram before. Normally you just see the shaft pointing to Thuban. They're like, that's where he was Thuban, but the reason behind it to allow the king to watch the stars rotate for all eternity. It's pretty cool.
Yes, Hippicus.
Yeah, that's where I had a problem from there on.
Yeah.
Right up through to there. From there back, that's where I got a problem.
It's pretty straightforward.
No, it's
Why?
not to
Got
me. It's not.
audio.
Not to me. It's not.
Well, Hippicus looked at the stars and they were moving from one century to another. And he wouldn't know that unless he had other data to rely on.
Like you said, it's the Babylonians.
Yeah.
No, the first problem I've got is the point of view. Is what frame of reference are they looking at it from?
Well,
What, from the Earth?
Yeah, that's where
And
I missed what he said where
right.
he started it. He did say something about where they were looking from.
they were looking from Earth at stars.
Yeah, but
and
but whereabouts on Earth?
North celestial pole.
No,
Yeah,
he said that if you listen, he said something different.
Babylonians and Mesopotamians, and he discovered something rather
Middle
remarkable.
East.
Now, to explain this, I'd like to take a different perspective.
Matter.
Instead of viewing things from the Earth, let's go ahead and view things from an imaginary viewpoint south of the Earth's South Pole.
South.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, my apologies.
An imaginary viewpoint south of the South Pole.
Yeah.
But what's that round thing in the middle of the screen? Is that meant to be the Earth?
Yeah, that's the Earth.
That's the equator in the Earth.
So
Yeah,
we're out in
south.
space looking at Earth.
From the bottom, yeah.
Center point, that's the South Pole.
I can't tell from where I am.
Yeah, but
I can't have it any bigger.
So yeah.
But from the northern hemisphere, and is imagining looking from the south.
John, you're going to talk up a bit. We can hardly hear you.
Oh, sorry, mate.
No, he's talking loud enough. He's just not spitting. His mic's not very good. I have to trade in your 2 tin cans and a piece of string.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
So what's that say?
That's better, John.
Is it? Oh.
What does that say up there on the top of the screen? Ursa Minor. That's the Little Dipper, right? So that's effectively above the north.
Yeah.
Hemisphere up there. So we're looking from the bottom south.
So, yeah, but we're a long way away from the Earth. If that's meant to be the Earth there.
That's the imaginary. No, he's here to put us in imaginary space.
Yeah, well, like we're nearly halfway to the moon.
Yeah, looking from the South Pole, heading towards north.
We're above the South Pole, but a bit off to the side, are we?
Yeah, that's right. And so what is showing out is the movement of the constellations over time, so you can see what the people in the North Hemisphere would have seen from looking from the bottom up.
So you wouldn't be able to see that demonstration from the North Pole because you would be seeing the Southern Hemisphere stars. That's why he's positioned it from the south.
Yeah, exactly. So we can see all of the stars that the North Hemisphere would see. Because if you were on Earth, then we'd be blocked by the Earth itself if we were looking from the south. And that's what he said, rather than doing it from Earth. Because if you imagine if he did it from the northern hemisphere, you wouldn't see Earth as any relation because you'd be looking up from Earth. It'd be even more confusing.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, sheeple.
You know what I mean?
No.
Why not?
Well, how? Do you know what my myopia is?
Myopia?
Yeah.
No.
You don't know what myopia is?
I've heard about it, but what is it?
Myopia is you being the same system that you're trying to observe. So therefore, you have to try and place yourself outside the system, looking in.
Yeah, I get it. But what I'm saying is that if you showed us on top of the northern hemisphere, there'd be no reference of the Earth and where
No,
constellations.
No, you're talking about looking from the system in. You can't do that. You cannot place yourself outside the system and look in. You are in the system. It's called myopia.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can tell me that you're outside the system looking in.
What I meant is that if you you put the observer on the northern hemisphere,
exactly,
there'd be no reference point for the viewer. You wouldn't know where he was looking from. But by putting us,
sheeple, you cannot place yourself anywhere outside the system. It's called myopia. You're actually in the system looking out.
Okay, yeah. But
now tell me you're outside the system looking in.
Well, what I'm
yeah, okay, let's go. Come on.
What I'm talking about is the observer, because
that's exactly what I'm talking about. The observer.
The thing we're looking at is not referenced. Is a reference point seen from Earth.
You just said looking out in. You're actually in the system you're trying to observe from outside, and you can't do that. You can only build models that reflect what you actually see inside the system.
Right.
There's no way you can be on the outside looking in.
Yes.
There's other things that come into play.
That's right. But in this observation, he could have put us at the top of he could have put us at the top of the North Pole, simply looking towards the constellations, and it wouldn't
on
have
Earth. Yes,
on Earth, yeah.
Yes, but then you still have Earth in the way. If you're on top of the North Pole looking down, you have the Earth in your way.
Yeah.
You can only observe what's around your cone of vision.
Exactly.
You can't see what's below the South Pole.
Exactly.
You can only communicate with the people down the South Pole to look north to see what's actually happening.
Exactly. And I think if we were showing these constellations spinning above the North Pole, it wouldn't show a good relation into what the whole constellation system is doing, in relation to where the Earth is situated. That was my point. So it's a good thing that they put it like this, in a place we could never see from.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
It's
like I got there in the end.
I know. But you have to take into account myopia. Okay, you're actually in the system that you're trying to observe.
Yeah.
You move with the system, so there's no way that you can take a snapshot from the outside looking in to see where you're going, what's around you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the problem with modern astronomy, is that we can't see from the outside looking in. It's always looking out and around us.
From within the system. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, John, what were you going to say?
No, you're right, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I learned as a myopic viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I learned the word. That's why I was like, I know this word, but I better not.
Well, you can be prejudiced and biased in your observation, in myopic observation. Okay, you can be biased and prejudiced because you can say this, that, and that is happening around us. But until you actually get outside the system and look in, okay, you don't know. You can't tell.
Yeah.
We've got a good estimation of what's going on from what's going on around us, but it's a secondhand event.
Yeah, I gotcha.
From looking outside in. That's the only problem that we face, is that we can't send a satellite outside the universe, galaxy, sorry, to observe what's going on around us.
I mean, even the things we use to have a look back in, is it still inside that system, isn't it? So we're always stuck inside our system.
Well, we're kind of based sort of like in the middle of the galaxy, so it's roughly 100,000 k's, 100,000 light years across. We're 26,000 years approximately from the center, so that still gives us about 70,000 k's, 70,000 light years to the edge of our galaxy to actually get outside and have a look in. And our current technology doesn't allow us to do it.
No.
But there's also tracking observations from missions to the Venus, Mars, Saturn.
That's our solar system, John.
Yeah, but I know that the Earth is within the solar system. This is just an example.
But our solar system goes around the galaxy. So
this is what that's been explained within our solar system.
Yeah. Well, our solar system is myopic in our galaxy.
Yeah.
Myopic, John. Myopic.
Yes. Oh, no, Quasi. It's all right. Peter, Dave, Fred,
John. My real name is Davy. Okay, Tafid in Welsh. So, yeah, but you're still in the system, trying to observe the system. You're relying on second-hand and third-hand events.
Yeah, but the solar system has been plotted and tracked within the system by other the Mars adventures and observations. Yeah, we know where they are, and we can put the model together.
Oh yeah, we know where we are. That's no problem, right?
Yeah.
But John, we also go up and down like a merry-go-round around the galaxy, and every time we go up and down, we pass through the galactic plane.
Yeah. I know that, man. I'm just talking about the solar system.
Yeah. Well, every time you pass through the galactic plane, you are part of one massive pull and push.
I know. Just stick to basics.
Okay, John.
Right, Dave.
Okay, John.
Good on you, mate. Okay, next video.
Next.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to get my head around that.
What?
The solar system is orbiting the sun, right?
Yeah.
And that whole system
is going up and down and around the galaxy. Yeah. It's a system within a system within a system. So trying to navigate and guesstimate what's going to happen in the future. It all comes down to observations. If let's just say a huge meteorite or asteroid hits, say Mercury or Jupiter, or well, not Jupiter, Venus, Mercury or Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that perturbs their orbit will throw our orbit out. Okay. And if our orbit is perturbed by probably say about 2 millimeters over about 100,000 years, that could be catastrophic to us as a species.
Mm-hmm.
So just the slightest bump in our mechanics around our star sun while we traverse around the galaxy can be catastrophic for us. It's a very dicey point. Just one slight bump of a planet that's in orbit around our sun can result in our demise. Jupiter's is known as our cosmic vacuum cloud for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if we get bumped, we might go towards Jupiter's orbit and be
Well,
sucked in.
any planet that's bumped out of its orbit around the sun just by a couple of millimeters can mean death for us. It won't happen instantly, but over 100,000 years, 200,000 years, we'll be screwed. And it's been that way. We've been in this motion for a long time now without anything happening to us. And that's not the way the galaxy works. Stuff changes. Things get hit. A rock gets pulled out of its orbit here or there, gets sent into our orbit. It's okay because like Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus have been taking out all the major problems, right? But we have to be worried about just one singular asteroid just entering into our orbital space around the sun between Mars and the sun. It hits one planet and it hits that planet really hard, and it perturbs our orbit just by 1 or 2 millimeters. Over 100,000 years, we could be shot out of the galaxy or pulled closer to the sun.
So it kind of goes around orbit and then gets worse and worse and worse until one point we just have almost
it's
like orbital velocity increases too fast, and then we just miss the ability to be pulled back in.
Well, any imbalance of the inner and outer planets can alter our orbit. I mean, if it wasn't for Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune, Pluto wouldn't even be there because of the when gravity travels, it travels at the speed of light. Okay, so we've got this sun at the center of our solar system, right? And it keeps the first 8 planets in orbit, but it's this ninth one that it's too far for gravity to reach to actually keep it in orbit around the sun. So it needs Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter to keep it in alignment.
So
otherwise, Pluto wouldn't even be there. Well, no, Jupiter would just be flung off out to the asteroid belt.
Right, and so outside of Pluto is the Oort cloud. Is that where it is?
I think so. There's also a cloud before it too. I'm not too sure.
But the Oort
cloud,
the big ones are, right, and they they can knock into each other, which then sends one into an orbit around towards the sun, right? That's how the Big
Well,
Bang.
even anything from outside that gets flung in, and that comes from a wandering huge asteroid that's just wandering around can actually perturb other stuff, and can actually perturb other stuff that perturbs other stuff. So it has a knock-on effect. So anything that upsets anything in between Jupiter and the Sun, which means us, we could be screwed. So it's a death-defying point.
Yeah,
Mm.
It's
that's
a knife edge. It's
that's a chance in 1 trillion billion.
yeah, but John, the universe wasn't built on chances.
Yeah, I know, but
It's not.
But it's balanced itself out over time, over billions of
Our
years.
solar system has.
Yeah.
The rest of the galaxy does what it wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means we don't know.
So what's the closest galaxy to the Milky Way?
Centauri.
Andromeda?
Andromeda.
And Centauri.
It's 2 billion light years away, but it's heading towards us. So yeah, we may or may not be here when we collide.
Yeah, it's another couple 100 billion years.
Well, we could be here. We could be turned into something else, John. I mean, you could be a fish in about 100 million years.
You never know.
It's crazy, man.
No, but like, think about it, right?
No, but just to think about it though, it's like I'm trying to get my head around it. Like the solar system is massive, right?
It's not that massive when you.
100,000 light years across, right?
Yeah, but it's 100,000 light years. That's a
Yeah.
big distance.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's a huge distance, just the solar system, and that solar system is only part of a galaxy.
Yeah, it's
You know?
part of another system, which is part of another system, which is part of another system.
I'm just trying to work that out in my head. Like,
yeah,
what's between like? So we're in a Milky Way is a spiral galaxy. Is that right? Or galaxy is a spiral.
It's just what they call a sombrero. It's flat with a small bulge in the middle.
Right.
They call it a sombrero galaxy.
So we're going around on like an arm of it.
Well,
type thing.
That's speculation. When we look at the Hubble Deep Field image, right, we see galaxies as globular messes, and over a period of time they flatten out to like we have today. Milky Way is like a sombrero galaxy. It's flat. We don't know if it has arms. We're guessing there.
Okay. Right. And so between our galaxy and Andromeda is just space time.
Yeah.
Just space itself. So our system is doing its thing. Like we're just a part of the Milky Way galaxy.
We're gravitationally bound in a group of galaxies. We have a few satellite galaxies around us, but the Milky Way and Andromeda are the 2 major galaxies in our field, which means we're being drawn together. But the space between other gravitationally bound galaxies is spreading apart.
If you've got a good telescope, you can see those galaxies.
You can see it by the naked eye. It's on a good night, a cold night.
Yeah.
Just trying to get my head around it. It's such a massive scale, you know.
Yeah, but see, like you'll be around for like a cosmic second compared to what's been going on and what will happen.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even bother trying to get your head around it, right? Just
hold on for the ride.
If something really happens, right, stand out in the middle of the street, bend over, and kiss your ass goodbye, because that's all you're going to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really big. Like the universe is a really, really big place.
Yeah.
And it's getting bigger.
Well, the sun is massive, and it's tiny compared to
Well,
the
our
other
sun
stars.
compared to other suns is pretty small. So
Exactly. Like I've seen the size comparison between Canis Majoris and our sun, and it's like our sun makes the Earth look like a grain of sand. It can't even really draw it to
it's
scale.
Ursa
And then,
Minus is the biggest. It's
oh,
huge. It's
and
like about 50 million times bigger than our sun.
yeah, and then they can't even draw the scale. You know, you can't even draw that on a piece of paper. It's too
Well,
big.
that actually draws us back to what Terry was saying before about our sun. The sun that we have here is what they call a third generation star. It's going to last for about roughly 12 billion years. We've gone through about 4 already. We've got about 5 left before it does its thing. But um, our sun actually has materials inside it that actually comes from other stars. First, second, not too sure about the third, right? But it actually contains material from the first and second generation stars. But it could be made up of a few other stars too that only lived for maybe 1 million years to 10 billion years.
You sort of got to think about the galaxy recycles itself. One that dies, expands, and then the gas.
The galaxy recycles itself. It's
The
probably not
gas.
the galaxy, but the solar systems that happen around the galaxy will recycle themselves.
Yeah, one feeds on the other and builds on and it forms another star.
Well, there's contents in our star, our sun, that can only come from first and second generation stars. So therefore, there was stars before our star, right? But it also contains material from stars that burn really brightly and very quickly, and then burned out really, really fast, and then spew their contents out into the surrounding part of the galaxy. Our star is a third generation star. It contains materials from the first and second generations of other stars, but it also contains material from stars that were really, really big and burned really fast and hard and burnt out really fast. So there's contents of like uranium in our star which can't be produced until after the star dies. There's certain types of metals in our star that can't be produced in our star because of its age and its brightness. So there's evolution of evolution of evolution in a galaxy of material.
I forget the name of that planet now. One of the gas giants. It's small enough to be a gas giant, but not big enough to be a star.
Yeah, not massive enough to collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jupiter is. Many say it's a failed sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just on the brink of in between of just on the verge.
Yeah, like just recently we witnessed the light spectrum of a neutron star creating gold.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Creating
So
what? Creating what? Gold.
Yeah, got gold
from a neutron star, going type 1A supernova.
Wow.
we often thought that stars in their evolution, when they went supernovae, right, they would spew their contents out into the surrounding space. But up until just recently, we actually witnessed a neutron going supernovae, and that's a type 1a, which means it burns at a certain brightness. But then we saw the signature of it creating gold in its process, and we haven't witnessed that before.
Yeah.
So there's a big blob of gold out there somewhere.
Yeah, they call it
well,
on light spectrum. Gold has a certain light spectrum.
Yeah.
So that's why they saw the gold particles coming out.
Well, when we take the light spectrum of a certain object, you can map out what it's made of, right, due to the black lines in the spectrum, and where it burns at that period, right, there'll be a black line. That's what it's made of. Where it burns another black line, that's where its spectrum is. But we've never seen that from any other supernovas, right? So now we've got a good estimate of, because of, like, gold isn't abundant in the universe. It's in small quantities. And when you go on average of a star going supernovae, right, probably 1 in 10 go. Okay, we don't see that average of gold mounting up. Like here on Earth, we only see gold in very rare places or portions. So whenever a star goes supernova, it doesn't always create gold, but we just witnessed a neutron star going supernova, right? And it had the light spectrum of creating gold. So gold gets spewed out into the surrounding area, and then along comes another star, absorbs that material, and then spews it out as it's burning.
That's only atom-sized gold. Yeah, it's very minute.
Atom-sized gold?
Yeah.
That's gold, John.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like a nugget coming out.
There's a bracelet.
Yeah, right, John. Well, we just sit around a neutron star waiting for it to go supernova, right? We just sit right next to it just to capture the gold.
Panhandling.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that, John.
No.
So how does it get up in the earth?
Well, because it gets spewed out into the surrounding space.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Then, see, its explosion causes a cosmic wind. Okay. Now, there might be a lot of nitrogen and helium sitting around. Okay. Around that particular area. So that cosmic wind blows and causes nitrogen and helium to fuse together and collapse into a certain spot. And there you go. You've got yourself a star. Doesn't happen every time, but
wow.
That's how we know stars are formed, by a collapse of an area that holds hydrogen and nitrogen, and it collapses. It forms. It pushes a wave into a matter of these two particles, and when they get heavy enough, right, they ignite and create a star. Depending on how much material is around to sustain that star, it could burn for 1 million years. It could burn for 12 billion years, like our star.
Interesting. And so it sucks in all
It doesn't suck.
Gravitates.
Yeah.
All the gold into its core and then burns it out.
Yeah, gravity plays a big role in it.
Because that's the you say helium and nitrogen, hydrogen and nitrogen.
We don't know why it just seems to be what happens when our universe came into existence. There was abundance of one particle and another particle. They got together and started forming stars. These stars blew up, spew their contents out. The contents formed planets, black holes, pulled galaxies. Pulled material together to form a galaxy, and away you go. We have quasars. Now we're not sure whether quasars came before galaxies. There's new science right now going to that field to try and point out where quasars actually come from and where galaxies actually come from. There's a new study right now that says that galaxies were shot out of early galaxies, and there's
Before
a problem, right?
galaxies.
There's hello.
That was me. Sorry.
Yeah. There's a new study now because the age of the light coming from some of these quasars is younger, older than what the galaxies that's sitting next to them. So we're looking at these galaxies, and some of these galaxies don't even have dark matter or a black hole at their center. So there's new science coming online investigating these issues.
Interesting. That's fascinating. No wonder you're sick of flat Earth.
Flat Earth's got nothing on me.
You know what I mean? Like, no wonder you're sick of it. I mean, shit.
No, you guys should be sick of flat Earth too. It's stupid.
But what's the deal with what's the deal with the diamond rain? Diamonds like raining on some of the planets.
Well, there's diamonds below our Earth the size of cars. They're just floating around in our core. Diamonds the size of cars.
In our Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just floating around below the crust.
It was due to a convection when the Earth's crust went below down to the mantle and developed under pressure and heat. And there's carbon in that first crust millions and millions of years ago. Then the heat and pressure created that diamond.
Yeah.
And you can make artificial diamond, but it's not a pure diamond.
They found diamonds in that movie, The Core.
Yeah. Well,
you mean all I have to do is make a movie and I find diamonds?
Yeah.
Car-sized diamond.
But you got to get that unobtainium.
Unobtainium, yeah, I know that.
Unobtainium.
I can't obtain it, so it's not obtainable. Yeah.
You have to just check Amazon or eBay. Somebody might have some.
Next.
Yep.
Next.
Yeah, but John.
For the last half hour of stuff, I'll have to get that sorted for another show because that's.
Yeah, we went too far on the sun, didn't we? Yeah. What were you going to say, John?
We can come back. We can come back to all that.
Yeah. Well, we can work on like climate weather and how it works and stuff like that.
Yeah, we got there's a lot of stuff to go.
Oh, that's a can of worms.
That'll keep me going for a while.
No,
but the environment is a can of worms too.
No, not bloody bullshit climate. Actual science climate weather.
Yeah, how the sun influences the seasons.
Yeah, the El Nino, El Nino, the sunspots, and
yeah, that's down the track a bit further yet.
Yeah, No, this, yeah, make it up as you go along.
No, I'm not making it up as I go along. I've got a set. I've
Yeah.
got a set plan.
There's a science behind weather. This is why, yeah, the Weather Bureau says, okay, they predicted it was going to be hot weather. This is 6 months ago, and because El Nino and El Nino.
Yeah. That topic would have been good to have brought up when we were talking about the fires and that, but I didn't think it was a good topic to bring it up.
No,
just
not
yet.
not at the time. No.
No, they're dealing with the fires as it is with the one around near Uquays up the back of the Snowy Mountains is a bit of a problem, I heard.
Yeah, Adelaide and I've got a friend that's down that way. Brad Bow, Adelaide, you can be. That's all in this area. It's just south of me.
Okay.
Yeah.
What, past Queanbeyan?
Forget Queanbeyan. God damn it.
What, is that your buffer?
Oh God.
Is that your fire break?
I don't want to say anything just in case some Queanbeyanians are listening to me.
Ah, that doesn't matter. I don't live there.
No. Well, Queanbeyan is where the people with two heads and the three arms live. So.
Oh, is that where they are?
Yeah.
Where's the Queanbeyan? What's that, mate?
Queanbeyan. Have you been
No.
Have you been to Queen yet, John? Yeah. You been?
Have you been out of Queensland yet, John?
No, not yet lately.
Never.
If you go to Melbourne, just bypass Canberra altogether.
Righto, mate. I'll do that.
Yeah, just be careful you don't get sucked into that big black hole.
Yeah, just don't turn left onto the Federal Highway, or is it the Monaro
you guys
Highway?
don't know. You guys don't know what you're missing. Canberra's a freaking good place to live.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I've seen other places around the world, and yeah, Canberra's the best place.
So you reckon it's better than Wollongong?
Oh, Wollongong for sure.
What, Wollongong?
Wollongong.
Sorry, Terry.
Sorry, Terry. What about Bendigo or what's near you? What's in West Sydney? What's really bad in West Sydney, Terry?
Penrith.
Yeah, okay. Well, Queanbeyan's like Penrith. There you
go. Meadowbank or Meadowfield or something. Places
it's
like
where
that west.
They got two arms. They got three arms and two heads over there.
That's where the Panthers are from, Penrith.
The Western Sydney area, not Reedy Hill.
What's that? The Rabbitohs?
Mount Druitt, around that area.
Yeah, I backed the North Queensland Broncos. Good team, mate.
One light year, 63241.077 AU. What? That's a big distance. Isn't an AU like 1.6 million kilometers or something?
93 million miles is an AU.
There you go, Quasar, Mount Druitt, around that area.
That's miles.
Aren't they rezoning that area for expensive property? Isn't that property area around there become more expensive?
Minchinbury maybe there.
Mount Druitt, I used to go down to a friend's place down there.
Yeah, that's a known area.
That was like 30 years ago, more.
Anywhere from there to Penrith. It's scattered department housing, pockets of suburbs.
Yeah, well, that's starting to open up as expensive plots because their land is pretty big around there.
Yeah.
The original blocks are pretty big.
Yeah, see, places like that wouldn't be department housing. No, it looks
Oh,
like.
it could be, but they just want the land. They don't care about the house.
Yeah, but I'm saying by the style of development, I can tell it doesn't look like department housing.
Yeah. Bloody hot box, mate.
Yeah.
So close together.
Yeah, that wouldn't be. If you go to Mount Druitt. Okay, Mount Druitt.
Like here, where I am, they just want the land. They don't give a frig about the house. Because on my land, it's just done at 1,200 meters. If I had another 50 meters on this land, I could build 3 houses, and that's what they want to do.
Or a unit.
Yeah, or 3 units, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, on my size blocks, you could fit nearly 4 units.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
Well, the minimum block you can build on here in Canberra is 400 square meters.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, that's small.
Aren't these supposed to be quarter acre?
Well, they used to be 800 square meters, and now it's.
Is that
rural.
Is that a quarter of an acre?
Oh, I'm not quite sure. I don't know what an acre is.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I have to look it up. I'm not next to the keyboard. Terry, off you go.
I was in Google Maps. Okay, I can get out of there. I can get out of Google Map. Here we go. Where are we? I have to open up another.
Like I've got a huge back garden that I can't do anything with.
Okay.
Well, how's your tomatoes going, mate?
I'll send you a pic, John.
Yeah,
You'll be impressed.
No, I just want a sample.
Well, it's a 400k. Sorry, 800k round trip, Terry.
Not for me. It's not.
Yeah, it is like 400k to your place.
No, that's only a day trip for me.
It's 100k just to get outside of Canberra here from where I am.
I'll take a shortcut.
Get in a plane.
There you go.
That's
John.
only shortcut.
That's one.
Well, it doesn't take long to get to Canberra. You're saying it gets
one
longer to
like
once I've got to Canberra. That's
I'm
what it
120 k's away from where you hit Canberra.
Okay.
How do you even say that number? One light
What?
year in kilometers.
Okay, quarter acre is 1,000 square meters.
1 acre or quarter
No, quarter of an acre is 1,000 square meters.
I got nearly 1,200. Oh, good. Excuse me.
Okay.
1170 was our
Average.
My block is
size. Yes.
And the minimum block you can build in Canberra is 400. They're talking about lowering it to 350.
There's something written here. Average size house built. Average size. I don't want the house. I want the block size.
That's a big number.
Well, I got offered 620 to walk out for the block and house.
Where would you go, mate?
Yeah, that's the problem. You got to buy something else.
Come to the Queensland, mate. Yeah.
No, bugger Queensland.
Oh, come on, mate. Beautiful state.
Yeah, you guys throw your bananas out because they're bent. No, I'd go down the south coast, probably just below Sydney somewhere. Probably around about Kiama. Kiama's nice.
They got a blowhole.
A couple of people lost their life in that, you know.
Yeah, I know. I was around. I was around through that whole era when we used to go down when I was younger, you know, go for day trips for a hoon
It
down there.
didn't say actually fell into it.
Yeah, they used to just stand on the edge and wait for it to blow up, and they'd either wait to get all wet and everything. And I knew somebody was going to fall in, but then they eventually put the fences around and everything. Because we used to walk up to it.
Yeah.
I never walked right to the very edge, but it was enough for the water to spray out and I'd get wet.
Well, that's what we used to do. We used to stand there and have a look, and get wet, and then walk back. But
yeah, that was it.
The year that I went down there, and then went up the coast a bit and stayed in a hotel, motel sort of thing, right? On the news that day, well, we just left the next day, right? On the news, these Yugoslavs got caught on a ledge. They got blown off the top part, and they were stuck down below it. And I think there was 2 or 3 that actually carked it.
Yugoslavs.
that or Chinese or some ethnic group. It was just ridiculous, right? You could see the water just come up to you, right? And you'd know when to walk back. It's stupid. Yeah, but Kiama, I'd move around that area. Right? It's nice, nice temperature. Good for the old age, John.
Hey, hang on, mate.
What are you talking about? You're just a little bit older than me, are you?
Yeah. But you know,
just a tad.
Yeah, I'm pretty active.
You got to eat your greens and your liver when you're young.
Yeah.
Wow, the block of land's bloody reduced in size now. It's 474 square metres.
Yeah.
From 1,000 square metres.
Where's that? In
this is while the average land size nationally for new lot sizes is 474 square metres. When I just said a quarter acre is 1,000 square metres.
Geez, I wish I owned my house in Gerringong. That was 1,800 metres.
Wow, that's not a bad size.
Cost me.
That's nearly 2 house blocks.
Yeah, it cost me $276 to build a house on it. And then when we split up, I think it was like $380. But then like the other day, I looked on the web, and the house was being sold for $980. And I said to the expenses, I said, look, let's keep the place. We rented it out. Well, you said an asset. No. I said, okay, fair enough. Yeah, we sold it for $380, I think, and yeah, they're just selling it now for $980. I'm going, oh my fucking god. Anyway, them's the breaks.
Yeah, we might finally get some rain tomorrow. So the weather bureau says. Hopefully. We haven't had rain for 20 mil of rain in 7 months.
Yeah, a big downfall the other night, John. Fill your tanks up. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, usually I plant me watermelons and rock melons, but no water to feed them. So watermelon, yeah, need water.
Yeah, my tanks are empty. And we're relying on tap water at the moment.
We're on water restrictions still. They reckon we should wash our car with buckets. Now I'm gonna.
Bucket?
I'd like to.
Fuck you?
Yeah, this is what they said.
Have you ever tried to fit a car in a bucket?
That's a good point. I never thought of that one. They brought out water restrictions years ago. What did they tell us to do with our shower heads and things like that? Use water restriction in our shower heads.
Yeah, pull that shit out.
Right, now they've told us to use water restriction. They've also said to use a shower head type nozzle for your tap, your trigger thing, to save on water for as well. Right. So why can't you wash your car with one of those trigger guns? Because I want to time how long it takes to fill up a bucket of water with those type of triggers. Time it to see how long it fills up the bucket. Right, then go and get the bucket and wash the car with it, and how many buckets I'll use to get the car washed with a bucket of water.
Oh, I want to see you put your car in the shower. That'll be interesting. Let alone put your car in a bucket.
Hey, so you give your car a quick shower.
So technically, I could fit a shower head over the car in the carport and stick the hose under it. Stick the hose on it.
No, you know this Karacha car washer that you use to clean your driveway with.
Karcher spray things, yeah.
Yeah, what you do is use one of
washer.
those.
Yeah, pressure washer.
Yeah, what you do is use one of those, right? Because they only use maybe 2 or 3 buckets to clean your car.
Okay, they never said anything about that.
Nah, but not everyone's got $200 or $300 to spend on one of those Karacha.
Or a son that's got one that I can buy.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, one of those things. Yeah. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I know, but I'd like to do that actual experiment. Time a bucket and fill it up with water to see out the time part.
You got the nozzle that has a fine spray.
I've got the shower, fine spray, jet, all that.
Yeah. Well, you got a bucket of water. Put your soap, you give it a fine spray, and a bit of soapy water. Then a fine spray to get the dust off, and then you wax it. Yeah, probably about $2 worth of water there.
Yeah, you wax on and you wax off.
Wax off.
Yeah,
wax on. Wax
off.
What are you doing there, John? You waxing on or waxing off?
Oh, I'm ambidextrous.
I'd get my arm to be ambidextrous.
Are you sure it's not your left arm?
Okay, both.
I'm glad I'm ambidextrous.
Yeah, I'd get both my arms to be ambidextrous.
Well, I wouldn't be able to be ambidextrous if I gave my both arms.
That's why it's a joke. Jesus Christ.
You trying to do it? You've been funny. Okay, I'll laugh now.
All right, I'll put that in the bags for laughing for later too. Okay.
Yeah. Now what I do is I save it up.
Yeah, take it to the bank and then kill myself over laughing.
Deposit in the bank, and when I make withdrawal, I'll die.
I die laughing. Yeah, I'm so rich with laughing. Yeah, I know.
Hey, that's my joke.
Yeah, I know. Where have you been for the last 100 years?
You're ruining my joke.
I ruined your jokes. You ruined my jokes.
Good,
Jesus.
we're even.
I'm older than you, so you have to bow down, right?
Oh, yeah. You old fart. Probably the wind will come along and blow you over.
Yeah, that's it. Snap. There goes one leg. Snap. There goes the other.
Hey, Terry, give him the boot, mate. There you go.
Give me the boot.
Quasar's so old, he's got fungus growing on his south side.
Saddle pedal.
Yeah, that'll teach you, mate.
Teach me what? I'm nearly dead. What else are you going to teach me?
Oh, come on, mate. Jesus Christ.
I've been Googling this and I still can't find it. What I wanted to know.
What level are you on, Quasar?
I can't
50?
find
What
it.
level? 60 plus. What are you on?
No. For your game. Armor.
Oh, armor. I was 136 or something before, and then now I'm 60, nearly 60.
This is a style of housing that Quasar wouldn't have where he is.
That's Sydney housing, isn't it?
Woohoo!
Isn't that just around the corner from you, Terry?
Terrace houses, they are.
Isn't that from that corner from you?
Bloody hell.
In Wollongong, there's some houses like that.
Yeah. You pay millions for one of those.
Yeah, they're all the ones we got down here. They've restored the batch, or a couple of them, couple of batches of them in some of the streets. But I reckon there was more at one time, and that they did get pulled down.
What, like 2 bedrooms or something?
Yeah, upstairs, downstairs, but they're very narrow and they go back a fair way.
They're narrow.
Very narrow, very narrow.
Don't look it.
That's the upper class. Yeah.
But the ones up in Sydney.
Hey, stop sharing. I show you my previous house.
Jeez, everyone wants to take over sharing when I share.
Terry.
Power. Take his power. It's show and tell. Oh, hello. Beautiful.
That looks like a typical Queenslander.
Got the
No, it's not a
Illuminati.
Queenslander.
No, that Queensland, what they're building now.
Got the
Well, they build, yeah,
Illuminati
they build.
eye
That's
on
the
it.
style they build everywhere.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward for all over the
I can't
country.
see why they put the garage in the front. The garage goes at the back.
No. Huge driveway,
Mm.
2 cars going to the front, and then you got entry
By the
from the
time I put my
garage
big
into the house.
carport in the front of the garage, it blocks half the house.
Well, I had a pergola that went round from that right hand side all the way around. Like you could walk out the big bedroom, and you had a huge entertainment, like a spa bath out the back.
Garage is not big enough though.
Yeah. Well, that type of building is built anywhere in Australia now. It's just a box.
Mm. Yeah, you open your kitchen window and you can knock on the neighbour's window.
Yeah.
Then you have to build your house soundproof so they can't hear what you're watching or listening to on TV.
Yeah.
Or
And
your
got,
arguments or domestics.
At the
and
back. At the back.
What back?
I
They've
had
probably got hardly any back. Enough for a clothesline, maybe.
Hang on a sec.
If that. And it wouldn't even be a Hills Hoist clothesline. It'd probably be one of those retractable things.
This was the rear. They're selling it, so the images aren't real good at the moment. That was the back. They had a big pergola and decking that went all
so
around the back.
I did have a yard out the back. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's pretty big, and like where the bedroom was, the main bedroom, there was a spa at the back, and there was probably what, I don't know, 10 meters to the fence. And what was good was that he was a copper. When I moved in, he said to me, "How you going?" Right, so I thought, "Hello, how you going?" And I had a chat with him, and he turned and said, just be careful, this next door neighbour to me, because he's peeping through windows." And I thought, okay, no worries. And we got talking, and then he said, "Oh yeah, I'm a cop and I patrol these areas." I thought, I'll get to know you really well.
Yes. You're my friend.
Yeah, he's actually taken the guy next door to him to court about peeping through windows and stuff. Went on for years. But that's where I used to live. Nice place, very nice place. Huge dining area. Huge kitchen area. Huge.
Sorry, your garage wasn't big enough.
Well, I had a workbench that survived everything, so that's all I needed. But it was open to everything. Like when you open the doors, it was open to everything. That's going on sale now. Well, that was a few months ago for $980.
Wow.
Yeah, kicked myself.
Okay, kick yourself. Well, it's too late to kick yourself now.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself now. Far out.
Yeah, we all do things that we wish we didn't have to do. Oh, we've been going for nearly 4 hours, and this was an early start. This show. So if we can finish it off here, I could start up again later, but I'll see how I go.
Yeah, mate.
Thanks for whoever's still here. Sheepy's still here. John's still here.
Yep.
Glazer's still here. Mad, I don't know if what happened to Mad. He fall asleep?
Time, right? Yeah.
Fell asleep. Okay. Don't talk too loud, you might wake him up. And I think eventually Casual's gone to sleep. Nobody's heard from Casual lately? No.
It was well back.
Interesting. Well, he might be asleep. Might have finally put him to sleep. Okay, thanks everyone. If we catch us later in another, oh, what time is it? 3 hours maybe? If not, I'll catch us tomorrow.
Thanks everyone.
Bye everyone.
Good night. Sleep tight.